The college entrance exam results were released. The entire parallel class I was in passed the first-year university line. They should have been cautious in choosing schools, but they believed in the connections of the class beauty's family. They all applied to top-tier universities. Upon learning of the situation, I promptly informed the school administration. The school brought in a professional admissions consulting team to offer guidance to the students. In the end, the students opted for more conservative college choices. The class flower bore a grudge against me. Because of this, she spread rumors everywhere that my recommendation spot was bought through her family's connections, slandering that I couldn't stand to see my classmates admitted to good universities, deliberately involving the school, which left her connections. With no way to work, the classmates grew resentful and invited me for a rafting trip under false pretenses, pushing me off the kayak and leading to my death. Afterward, during the police investigation, they all gave false testimonies in unison, claiming that I had committed suicide due to the burden of my original family. After my parents endured the pain of losing their daughter, they faced a series of online attacks, eventually succumbing to depression and passing away. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day when the class flower mentioned she had a connection. Can I really get into medical university with this score? And me, I want to go to the School of Economics and Management. Does your family have connections for the computer science program at Hawaii University? The chattering voices of my classmates echoed in my ears. I gasped for breath. The scene before me was still one of water reaching my nose. For a long time, I realized I had been reborn back to the day of the class reunion on the day of filling out college applications. Of course, as long as the scores aren't too far apart, my family has connections to help you all sort it out. Class beauty Meng Jingjing spoke confidently at the dinner table. Everyone became excited. How much of a gap is considered not too far apart? Look at my college entrance exam score. It's only 563 points. I can only apply to an ordinary public university like University A. But I want to go to medical university. There's about a 15-point gap between them. Can I still get into medical university? My score is already an overachievement, but it just barely meets the threshold for Hawaii University. My parents want me to take a chance on Hawaii University's best computer science program. In previous years, the admission score for this major has been about 30 points higher than my current score. Can it be done? Meng Jingjing asked everyone to quiet down. She then said, I understand how everyone is feeling. Don't worry just yet. Listen to me carefully. If you just want to get into a prestigious university, the score gap can be within 20 points. If you've already reached the minimum admission score for that university, then there's no score gap to worry about. Just apply for the major you want to choose, and I can help everyone make it happen. Everyone got even more excited. So, that means I can get into medical school. Then, getting into Hawaii University's computer science program should be a piece of cake. Jingjing, hurry up and tell us what we need to do. My family, the Zhangs, are counting on me to make something of myself. Meng Jingjing looked naturally and composed as she picked up the drink on the table and took a sip. Sitting beside her, Gu Fanya, who was also my childhood friend, spoke up. There must be something to give in return. Jingjing's family connections are just connections. They can only build a bridge for everyone. As for whether everyone can cross that bridge, it depends on their own abilities. Everyone immediately understood this required the use of superpowers. Then he asked about the price. Meng Jingjing didn't hold back. She directly told everyone, 10,000 yuan per point. By referring to last year's admission score line, you can calculate the price. I'm only 5 points short for the School of Economics and Management. 50,000 yuan seems pretty reasonable. I want to get into medical university, but I'm 15 points short. That would be 150,000 yuan. That's a lot. Then for the computer science program at Hawaii University, I'm 32 points short. That would be 120,000 yuan. That's a huge amount of money. Everyone began calculating how much they would need to spend. Some people couldn't help but feel that their families couldn't afford the money and began to back out on the spot. Gu Fanya, however, said, you have to understand that 1 point in the college entrance exam can crush how many people. Now, 10,000 yuan can buy you 1 point. What a great opportunity. Just think, in the future, When you go out to find a job, with a diploma from a prestigious university, the salary and benefits will definitely be better than those from an ordinary university. I looked at Gu Fangya. He scored 670 this year, which is 20 points short of last year's Tsinghua admission score. So, it was clear that he also wanted to buy the 20-point gap through Meng Jingjing's connections. Spending this amount of money now is really not much. Gu Fangya continued to add. The male classmates, who usually fawned over the class flower, also chimed in. That's true. Even if I had to repeat a year, not to mention the expenses, just the year of youth spent in society, I could earn tens of thousands. Moreover, this time I already performed beyond my usual level, and repeating the year might not significantly improve my scores. Exactly. Jingjing's connections are being offered to you for free, and you're still hesitating about these things. Jingjing is only willing to help you out, because you're classmates, so you should really appreciate it. Everyone chimed in one after another. The atmosphere started to stir up again. Meng Jingjing deliberately looked at me. Monitor, as a top student already guaranteed admission to Tsinghua, what do you think about using connections to choose schools and majors? Hearing Meng Jingjing's voice, I unconsciously clenched my palms. In my previous life, when I heard Meng Jingjing mention having connections, I advised my classmates not to take chances, but my classmates seemed brainwashed, insisting on spending money to buy grades. Worried that everyone might go astray, I reported it to the school authorities immediately. Using my parents' resources, I hired a team to assist with filling out applications overnight. With the help of the professional team, every student was able to enter university reasonably. My kindness not only failed to earn their gratitude, but instead convinced them of my baseness. Moreover, Meng Jingjing spread rumors that my recommendation spot was bought through her family's connections, making everyone despise me. In the end, they lured me out for a rafting trip and drowned me in the water. I didn't say the words from my past life. This matter is hard for me to comment on. Different people have different perspectives, and everyone has their own criteria for judgment. Meng Jingjing sneered coldly. The class monitor is indeed the class monitor, speaking so flawlessly. Never mind. It doesn't matter if you don't want to admit it. I treat everyone equally anyway. Ambiguous words spilled from Meng Jingjing's mouth. Others began to speculate. Could it be that the class monitor's guaranteed admission spot was also obtained through Meng Jingjing? Does Meng Jingjing's family have such great influence? Didn't you know? Her dad is that person from the Ministry of Education. Whispers reached my ears. I didn't try to deny it as desperately as I did in my past life, but acted as if I hadn't heard anything. Let them imagine whatever they wanted. As the time for filling out college applications was approaching, no one was in the mood to eat anymore. Everyone wanted to hurry home and finalize the purchase of a school as soon as possible. I sat in my seat, watching all of this quietly. My heart remained completely calm. After settling the bill, watching the figures of my classmates recede into the distance, I stood at the entrance of the restaurant to take a deep breath. The college entrance exam was, after all, a process of selection. Screen scores, screen character. People as selfish and insatiably greedy as them truly should not enter university. So, let you be deceived, let you sink into revelry, let you miss out on university. After I told my dad that the class monitor's guaranteed admission spot was arranged by Meng Jingjing's family, my dad didn't hesitate to give me 320,000 yuan, saying that as long as I could get into Hua University's computer science program, no amount of money would be an issue. Yes, a single point can crush how many people. I originally just wanted to spend 50,000 yuan to attend a top university, but after my mom heard that Meng Jingjing's family had connections, she immediately gave me 200,000 yuan. For 200,000 yuan, you can attend a top university. What a great deal. If it weren't for the fact that my score is too far from Tsinghua, I really wanted to buy my way into Tsinghua. In the class group chat, everyone discussed all night. In the end, everyone raised their price to the maximum. Some aim for a better university, regardless of the major. Others seek the best major in their ideal institution. The one who paid the most, with 1 million, wants to attend Peking University for law. They have decided on the school and major, and they don't forget to at me in the group. Ask if I got it through Meng Jingjing's connections. Tsinghua University's recommendation spot. I denied it, but they called me hypocritical. I really wanted to tell my classmates about Meng Jingjing's true family situation. But as soon as I typed it out, I deleted it, because only those with immense greed in their hearts can be deceived by scams. These fools deserve to be swindled into bankruptcy by Meng Jingjing. I exited the group chat. Additionally, I gave up the Tsinghua University recommendation spot. I contacted the foreign university that had previously wanted to admit me. I asked my parents to help me book a flight abroad. In the future, I don't want to have the slightest connection with these people. I just didn't expect to run into these people at the airport. While carrying my suitcase, Meng Jingjing led the way, followed by Gu Fangya and others. They also carried large and small bags, as if preparing for a trip. Is that Zhang Xinjia? Why is she here? Right. How did she know about our itinerary and even followed us here? Was it Gu Fangya? Who said it? Gu Fangya immediately denied. No. How could I possibly tell her? Such a petty person. Meng Jingjing raised her eyebrows slightly and walked towards me. Monitor, where are you going? I didn't want to tell them my destination, so instead of answering directly, I asked, where are you going? Meng Jingjing let out a soft humph. How dare you ask? Where we're going? If it weren't for you telling the school about us buying our volunteer placements, why would the teachers be hounding us about filling out our volunteer forms? Guo Fengya was also very displeased. You spent your own money to buy a guaranteed admission spot, and now you can't stand to see us doing well. The teachers keep calling us, calling our parents, saying there's a problem with our volunteer forms, and asking us to change them. It's so annoying. The other classmates looked at me with equally unfriendly eyes. To avoid being influenced by the school teachers, Jingjing's dad booked us a European tour. Let's have a proper graduation trip after the college entrance exams. But let's make it clear up front. This trip doesn't include you. Even if you pay your own way to tag along, you're not welcome. Exactly. You're always reporting to the teacher. Who knows if you'll just turn around and tell on us while we're out having fun. They went back and forth, each chiming in. I glanced at the calendar on my phone. There were still 2 days left before the college application deadline. These 2 days were indeed a good time to relax. After all, in 2 days, they wouldn't be able to laugh anymore. I sat down at my boarding gate, luggage in hand, and waited. Meng Jingjing, Guo Fengya, and others were nearby. A group of people were chattering noisily, and all their discussions reached my ears. She always seemed so helpful, but it's all just to show off in front of the teachers. She used to be so close with Jingjing, and also got along well with Guo Fengya. But look at her now. Her own admission was bought with money. What's there to be proud of? If it weren't for Guo Fengya exposing this, how would we have known so much? I don't know how Guo Fengya, who was once so close to me, ended up being so bewitched by Meng Jingjing. After all, since Meng Jingjing transferred to our school, he and I have been drifting further and further apart. I put on my headphones, turn the volume up to the maximum, close my eyes to rest. My mind can't help but recall the scenes from my past life. If Meng Jingjing's family connections were truly reliable, her father should have sent her to Tsinghua University, instead of sending her to some unknown, unaccredited university abroad. If any of you had taken a look at Meng Jingjing's home, you would understand that her family doesn't have that kind of influence. Her father is an alcoholic, her mother is a gambler, and she grew up relying on her grandparents, who collect trash. Aside from your parents, the principal and teachers are the ones who most want you to get into a good university. Even they say this is a scam. So, why are you so stubbornly clinging to this delusion? In my previous life, the points I made were well-founded, and they naturally had their own judgment. That's why I chose to follow the advice of the professional college application team and selected a suitable university. But greed knows no bounds. Jealousy and greed led them to blame their failure to get into top universities on me. Meng Jingjing was the instigator, while other classmates, including Guo Fengya, were outright demons. Time passes by minute. I watched them board the plane one after another, watching the plane speed down the runway, circle a few times, and soar into the sky. From then on, mountains high and waters far, never to meet again. On the second day in the UK, my parents called. They asked about my situation. I told them the truth. Tell them that the school here in the UK is great. The classmates are very friendly, and the teachers have been very supportive. They felt much more at ease after hearing what I had to say. Then, the conversation turned to my former classmates. Did you know about those classmates of yours who paid to get into schools? Dad asked me. I pretended not to know and shook my head. He sighed softly. The class beauty, Meng Jingjing, from your class, who claimed to have connections, has been exposed for encouraging her classmates to pay for school choices. The school teachers are running around in a panic. Dad said that the teacher had come to our house specifically to inquire about the students' applications for schools. My father was completely baffled and had no idea about the specific situation. Moreover, since I was on a plane at the time, he couldn't easily reach me. Shortly after I arrived in the UK, the school administration learned that all the students in the class had submitted applications for programs that exceeded their expected choices. The school had intended to have the students resubmit their applications before the deadline. However, no matter how teachers and parents tried to contact them, the students could not be found. Everyone finally realized that all the classmates had been lured to Myanmar by Meng Jingjing. Myanmar? Could it be? I paused, unable to help, but recall numerous news reports about Myanmar. Yes, they were tricked by Meng Jingjing into the Myanmar industrial zone, involved in telecom fraud. My dad's words confirmed my suspicion. So, what's the situation now? The parents and teachers must be as anxious as ants on a hot pan. My dad also felt quite regretful. Those parents only realized now that spending money to choose a school was a complete scam, and the so-called package tour abroad was actually an abduction. This Meng Jingjing is simply too wicked. I asked if they had reported it to the police. My dad said, "Of course we reported it. The amount involved is huge, and it's a matter of life and death. It's even made the news. You can search online and see for yourself." After hanging up the phone, I looked up the domestic news. Everything happened exactly as my dad had said. Under the related news, netizens were laughing their heads off. The entire class, except for the class monitor, who was recommended for admission, and the class beauty, who went into fraud, was tricked into going to Myanmar. This is hilarious. It's already 2025, and there are still people questioning the fairness of the college entrance exam, despite the school and teachers repeatedly warning them to choose schools carefully. These so-called geniuses just wouldn't listen. Those parents are also shockingly foolish, willing to fork out hundreds of thousands, without a second thought. Once their kids go abroad, they just let them be. Actually, before going to the UK, I received quite a few calls from my classmates' parents. They wanted to ask me about the guaranteed admission situation. I have told the truth. My guaranteed admission spot was earned through winning a competition, and has no connection to Meng Jingjing. You can verify this with the school, or even with Tsinghua University. Additionally, I took the college entrance exam as scheduled, and scored a high of 723 points, which is more than enough to meet Tsinghua University's admission requirements. But they didn't believe what I said. They even stubbornly thought I was lying. Why bother lying to us? We know you have good grades, but we're well aware that the recommendation process can be manipulated. All right, since you're not willing to communicate with us further, let's leave it at that. Indeed, what kind of parents raise what kind of children? Therefore, I recorded all these conversations, just waiting for the day when they might come in handy. After the incident, the parents of those classmates finally realized they had been deceived. He called me again. The content was full of moral coercion. I didn't want to waste any more time on them. I also reminded my parents to move to the old house in the city center. That old house is right next to the police station, so even if they come looking, they won't dare to cause trouble. Let's install more cameras around the house. If anything happens, we'll have proof to explain. With my parents' support, I bought a house abroad. In late July, I brought my parents to live abroad, keep them away from disputes as well. I thought that since our whole family was abroad, things would eventually calm down. But like my group of ghost-like classmates, these ghost-like parents have no intention of letting us off the hook. They teamed up to vandalize my home in the country and spread rumors everywhere about how malicious my Whole family is, even spreading rumors online that I was an accomplice of Meng Jingjing. At the time, she said that her guaranteed admission spot was bought through connections at Meng Jingjing's house. Otherwise, how could we have just handed over the money so easily now that Meng Jingjing is missing? And her family doesn't care. We can only ask her for an explanation. The money is gone. The child is gone. All our mistakes. But they can't outweigh the mistakes of the scammers. Each word drips with blood. It caused a huge uproar online. Jiang Xinjia, as the class monitor, showed no concern for her classmates' college applications. She only became class monitor for personal gain. Such a student deserves to die. I feel it's unfair for my child, for all the dozens of classmates. Even though I'm abroad, I'm still affected by domestic news. Many international students, seeking justice, blocked my way home, splashed paint on me, and threw rotten eggs at me. There were even reporters who traveled thousands of miles to track me down at my school, demanding that I give an explanation to the parents of my classmates. I straightforwardly sent the recordings of those parents' initial phone calls to me to the reporters. Additionally, I posted the videos of those parents causing trouble. With my parents online, right and wrong are clear. It becomes clear at a glance. With the high school principal and teachers firmly supporting me, they posted my competition medals and certificates from the past 3 years online to clear my name. University professors also explained on my behalf multiple times in public. My life gradually returned to normal. Netizens collectively turned their attention to those unreasonable parents. It's disgusting. The class monitor already said that their guaranteed admission had nothing to do with Meng Jingjing, yet they still insist it was bought with money. How stupid! How dare they question the college entrance exam, question Tsinghua, and question the Ministry of Education? I suspect there must be people among this group who cheated on the college entrance exam or took someone else's job in the past. Yes, the woman leading the charge in smashing the Jiang family in the video is Zhao Hongmei. In 1988, she took my place to attend university. The man following Zhao Hongmei in the video stole my father's job at the factory back then. And Guo Fengya's grandparents stole the work points from our entire village. When the incident was exposed, the village drove them away. Who would have thought they'd end up in the city and live so well? The people in the video were exposed one after another, and the more they were exposed, the more there was to uncover. By the end, no one cared about the students, who had already been trafficked to Myanmar. What's the point of rescuing them? Let these morally corrupt individuals be cut off in northern Myanmar. This kind of scum, who steals others' lives, becomes so arrogant because they've tasted the sweetness of taking shortcuts. It's true that fraud can only deceive those who are too greedy. I want to award Meng Jingjing a prize. She's practically eliminating harm for the people. One by one, those whose lives had been stolen began to speak out. The heat surpassed that of a large-scale fraud, an abduction case. The vast capabilities of netizens are truly impressive. Through meticulous investigation, the web of connections behind Meng Jingjing was indeed uncovered. Holy crap, she really has connections. Meng Jingjing's godfather is actually a big shot. She wasn't lying. No. Everyone, please look carefully. The big shot you're talking about and Meng Jingjing's godfather are not the same person at all. The chaotic situation finally revealed the truth after the police rescued the group of students. In the video of the police rescuing the students, I clearly saw the boys, who had been shaved into crew cuts. Their eyes were devoid of light, only filled with numbness. The girls, dressed in garish outfits, bore unknown scars all over their bodies, their eyes filled with terror and helplessness. It's easy to imagine the inhuman abuse these students endured. Within the compound, the most unexpected part, of course, was Meng Jingjing among the crowd. Everyone thought the scam was orchestrated by Meng Jingjing. Yet no one expected Meng Jingjing to become a victim as well. According to police disclosure, Meng Jingjing met Wang during her time at school, who was the driver of that big shot. Wang often used the identity of the big shot to swindle and deceive people everywhere. He had deceived many female college students, but later, feeling that college girls were too old, he extended his claws toward the younger Meng Jingjing. Meng Jingjing came from a poor family and had never seen luxury goods. She believed that the goods bearing luxury brand logos given by Wang were genuine. She even thought that the villa and car she visited belonged to Wang. Thus, she firmly believed in Wang's words. My college entrance exam scores weren't good, so I wanted him to help me get into a better school. He agreed to help me and said he still had many spots available. If any of my classmates needed help, he could assist them as well. I truly didn't know he was deceiving me. The boys in the class each paid 2 to 300,000, and the girls, with money, paid up, while those without money were tricked into giving their bodies. I genuinely wanted to help my classmates, but I never expected him to be a fraud. He collected over 10 million from the students in total. Yet he still wasn't satisfied. He tricked us into going to Myanmar and sold us off again. I heard from the person in charge at the compound that the dozens of us were sold for 3 million. Meng Jingjing wept bitterly in front of the camera. She deeply regretted her own ignorance, mentioning her impoverished family again, recalling being molested as a child, and recounting her tragic life in an attempt to gain some sympathy and escape criminal punishment. Unfortunately, she is already an adult and bears the corresponding criminal responsibility. Ultimately, she was identified as one of the principal offenders, and, when Wang was apprehended, in addition to confessing to his criminal acts, Wang provided another explanation for his relationship with Meng Jingjing. I met her at a nightclub. I told her I was a driver, but she didn't believe me. She insisted that the Rolls-Royce was mine, and even my boss's villa was mine. I never lied to her, even when her classmate wanted to buy their way into school. It was all her idea. No matter how I explained how difficult it was, she insisted on whispering in your ear. I was ensnared by her charms, and had no choice but to go along with her. It's true that I took the money and sent them to Myanmar, but it's all because I truly loved her. Yet, she deceived me. While we were in a relationship, she was flirting with a guy named Gu Fengya in her class, and even engaged in unspeakable acts. I couldn't stand being cheated on, so I sent the whole group to Myanmar. Originally, I planned to run away with Meng Jingjing and the money, but who could have known she would betray me? It's laughable. Really, she acted like a madam, tricking her female classmates into serving me, all in the hope that I would help them get into better universities. Honestly, I've seen foolish people, but never ones as foolish as their classmates. An interview was published in the news. Netizens are laughing their heads off again. Seriously, if there was even one smart person in this group, this scam wouldn't have been able to proceed. Haha, it really seems like this world is just one big amateur show. I wonder if the police hearing this would even know how to take notes. After all, such a ridiculous crime process is really an insult to the intelligence of the police. The case was closed on the day the admission notices were issued. All the other students, except for Meng Jingjing, were acquitted. Although they were cleared of charges, they no longer had a university to attend. None of the universities they applied to exceeded their expectations accepted them. Many chose to repeat the year. Some, after experiencing abuse in the industrial park, developed mental health issues. Parents with means accompanied them for treatment, while those without means were taken in by social welfare organizations. More of them had lost the patience to continue studying, and instead chose to go out and work, as the money they had given to Wang was obtained through loans, and they still had to repay it. Gu Fengya probably falls into the most pitiable category among these three situations. His parents were exposed for having taken someone else's place to attend university back in the day, and as a result, both of them were laid off from their jobs. Not only did the family lose their income, but Gu's father and mother were also hit in the head with bricks while out buying groceries, leaving them partially paralyzed. Additionally, the plaintiff, whose university spot they had taken, successfully sued them, and Gu's parents were ordered to pay 3 million in damages. This amount of money was enough to crush a high school graduate who had failed their exams and emerged from a scam park. That winter, I was in the UK, experiencing the long nights and short days, sitting around the fireplace, enjoying the roast chicken made by my mom, and listening to the records played by my dad. Gu Fengya's long-distance call came in from back home. "Hello, who is this?" "Shinjia. It's me. Fengya. My heart stirred slightly. The image of that sunny boy appeared in my mind. Is there something you need? I asked, but there was no sound from the other end for a long time. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up first. International calls are quite expensive. Wait, Xinjia, I want to know how you're doing now. I heard that you gave up Tsinghua and went to study in the UK. I replied, yes. When Meng Jingjing said she was taking you to Europe, I was going to the UK. He sighed. So, back then, you had already given up Tsinghua. But why? I remember you clearly said that Tsinghua was your dream. Thoughts drifted far away, goofing and I sat on a bench by the Weiming Lake. The setting sun stretched our shadows very long. He looked at the lotus flowers in the distance, his face full of confident pride. I want to get into Tsinghua and go there with you. Tsinghua, what about you? Jiang Xinjia, what's your dream? At that moment, I was drawn to his sunshine and innocence. For the first time, my reason was pushed forward by hormones. I instinctively replied, Tsinghua, going to Tsinghua is my dream. He looked at me and smiled slightly. That smile sent ripples through my heart. So, I studied day and night. I treated my weak science subjects as my greatest enemy, conquering them bit by bit. I rose the earliest and slept the latest in the sea of questions, searching for the light that guides the way forward. Finally, that year in the second year of high school, my scores surpassed Gufengya's. I became the top student in the entire school, became the teacher's favorite Tsinghua prospect. I happily told Gufengya this good news, but I didn't see the smile at the corner of his mouth. Instead, I saw the coldness in his eyes. Oh, congratulations. You've already surpassed me so quickly. I could see his displeasure. It was a deep-seated malice from within. Until senior year of high school, he began to distance himself from me, getting closer and closer to Meng Jingjing. The words of encouragement that used to be directed at me were now all spoken to Meng Jingjing. Keep it up. Study hard. You can definitely improve. 2. It's okay. If there's any question you don't understand, I'll help you. This time's exam score is 20 points higher than last time. Keep it up. Those gentle and lingering moments in my ears, harsh and scorching, I can only choose not to see, not to hear of maintaining a clear mind. Does Gufengya not know that my dream has never been Tsinghua? But him, he knows more clearly than anyone the subtle feelings that have developed between us. Once we were so close, how did we end up like this? Is it because your grades surpass mine, and you feel I no longer deserve to be with you? He spoke, with a heart full of bitterness and helplessness. I furrowed my brow and bluntly voiced the malice in his heart. Before, I never thought you were unworthy of me, but now, you truly are unworthy of me. You blame your own cowardice and incompetence on others, never once reflecting on what you yourself have done in this process. When you were tutoring Meng Jingjing close to her, didn't you notice my disappointment and distress? When you were dating, attending activities together, and sharing duties, didn't you see the tears in my eyes? When you openly rejected my approach, you know everything. You understand everything in your heart. Yet, you choose to use such childish to hurt me. You want to dominate me. Unfortunately, I am stronger than anyone else. I clearly know that in this life. Apart from emotions, there are many other important pursuits. With those words spoken, Gufengya choked up. Xinjia, no, I'm not like what you said. I was afraid you'd look down on me for having worse grades than you. I'm afraid I'd be able to attend Tsinghua with you. I'm just too insecure. He hadn't even finished his sentence. I interrupted him. You should indeed feel insecure for choosing to believe that you could buy your way into Tsinghua, and for believing that I also bought my guaranteed admission. Fortunately, you were so insecure. Otherwise, you might not have ended up like this. But since you were already so insecure, how could you have the nerve to make this call to me? And you even had the audacity to explain so many things from back then so confidently. What? Are you not insecure anymore? He stammered, unable to utter a single word for a long while. Xinjia, do you really look down on me now? I snorted coldly. Otherwise, I'm a top university student. Why should I respect someone who tries to cheat their way into Tsinghua? Why should I respect someone with a criminal background? You don't even qualify to take the civil service exam. Why should I respect you? Xingjia, how did you become like this? I sneered. You'd better stay humble. The gap between you and me will widen in the future. You are not worthy of liking me. With that, I hung up the phone. Gu Fengya tried to contact me several times. I didn't answer, and eventually, getting annoyed, I simply blocked him. As early as that year, when he repeatedly hurt me through Mengjingjing, I had already lost all hope in this person. Naive, despicable, dark, in stark contrast to the sunshine, free-spiritedness, and youthful innocence I admire. 4 years later, I graduated. I was invited by the Tsinghua University president to visit Tsinghua University. The president walked with me along the tree-lined paths of the campus, continuously recounting the century-long history of the school. He earnestly hoped that I could pursue my graduate studies at Tsinghua University, and made various promises. I was deeply grateful for this, and also expressed my fondness for Tsinghua University. That year, I returned to Tsinghua University for my graduate studies. The rich academic atmosphere allowed me to immerse myself more deeply in my research. When I went to the cafeteria to eat, I encountered a familiar figure. He had a head full of white hair, wearing a mask, standing behind the counter. He asked me what I wanted to eat. I pointed to one meat dish and one vegetable dish. He scooped food onto my tray. Then he served the next student. Gu Fengya seemed not to recognize me. Of course, he probably didn't dare to acknowledge me. After all, he doesn't deserve it. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. On the day my daughter was born, it was because I refused to write an 800-word apology letter to Lou Kitchen's female best friend. He wouldn't allow me to have a natural birth followed by a C-section. I nearly lost my life, suffered from postpartum depression, and attempted suicide by jumping off a building. When I opened my eyes again, I was wearing a wedding dress. Miss Song Yuaning, do you take Mr. Lou Kitchen to be your lawfully wedded husband? Looking at the man I have loved for half my life, my voice is resolute as never before. I do not. Lou Kitchen suddenly raised his head, looking at me, with confusion in his eyes. Is it just because Jiang, he wore the wedding dress you booked that you're giving me the cold shoulder? Can you stop being so petty? Haven't I told you long ago that if there were anything between us, would you even have a chance? Anger flushed Lou Kitchen's face, with a faint red hue. His gaze towards me is filled with disappointment. Before I could say anything, Jiang, he hurriedly stepped in to mediate. Sis, today is the wedding rehearsal. It's fine if you're being willful, but on the actual wedding day, don't cause any trouble. Be careful, or Brother Chin might kick you aside, and then you won't even have a place to cry. Here we go again. A perfect duet. We've been together for 8 years, from school uniforms to wedding dresses. Clearly, Lou Kitchen is my boyfriend. Yet in every matter, he always sided with Jiang He, his childhood friend. In my previous life, I too had gotten upset over Jiang He wearing a wedding dress. I tried reasoning with Lou Kitchen calmly and politely, but all it earned me was even harsher ridicule. Jiang He and I are just good brothers. Don't think everyone is so filthy-minded. We've grown up together since we were toddlers in open-crotch pants. There's no distinction between male and female between us. It's Jiang He's birthday on our wedding day, so don't cause any trouble. Indeed, it's to etch Jiang He into the most important moment of my life. Lou Kitchen purposely chose her birthday as their wedding day, and Jiang He, to be the prettiest little princess, wore the wedding dress I had originally reserved. They seemed like a perfect circle. I am the only one who is superfluous. I stared fixedly at Jiang He's smug face. I couldn't figure out what her particular preference was. If she really liked Lou Kitchen, she could just be with him directly. As for when to fight for her, that'll be after I get a girlfriend. Does that make you happier? She glared at me. Why are you looking at me like that? It's creepy. As she spoke, she turned on like a tap. Splish splash. She began to shed tears. I already knew you didn't like me. I'll just leave. Then don't make Chin angry. Even as she said this, Jiang He, however, moved closer to Lou Kitchen, pressing her chest against his arm, and squirming against him again and again. Lou Kitchen's usually stern face flashed, with a pained expression. "Don't worry. As long as I'm here, no one can drive you away." With that, he tossed the wedding ring from his hand toward me. "You'd better think about how to apologize to Xiaohua. Otherwise, the wedding will just have to be postponed." Lou Kitchen put his arm around Jiang He's waist and left. Jiang He stuck out her tongue at me, like a snake flicking its tongue. She mouthed 2 words. "You fool." This wasn't her first time provoking me. In the past, I would have been hurt enough to cry uncontrollably. I would have chased after Lou Kitchen, demanding to know why he treated me this way. But at this moment, I just carefully put the ring away. When we were ordering the rings, I wanted to engrave both of our names on it, but Lou Kitchen thought it was childish. Now I'm actually grateful to him. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to return the ring. I turned to find the hotel's manager. "I need to cancel the wedding at the end of the month." The person in charge was quite astonished. "You've spent half a year preparing for this wedding, pouring your heart and soul into every detail. Wouldn't you like to reconsider?" Indeed, every part of the wedding was arranged by me, piece by piece, from the smallest champagne glass to the grand stage backdrop. I even edited every single frame of the wedding MV myself. But none of that matters anymore. In this new life, I'll no longer hold on to a heart that can't be warmed. The grand wedding from my past life is still vivid before my eyes. Back then, I watched helplessly as Jiang He stood beside Lou Kitchen, wearing the wedding dress that should have been mine. Those who didn't know the truth praised them as a perfect match, made for each other. It made me look like nothing more than a clown. I bore Lou Kitchen's warning in mind, and dared not cause a scene. But this only made Jiang He grow even more brazen. She got drunk at my wedding, knocking over the champagne tower. I still remember the sight of shattered glass everywhere, a river of champagne flooding the floor. Jiang He's wrist was cut, leaving a small wound. Crying and fussing, she insisted that Lou Kitchen take her to the hospital. I begged Lou Kitchen to finish reciting the vows before leaving, but he still abandoned me. As he was leaving, Jiang He, just like before, looked at me and said, "See, you will never be better than me." The wedding was a complete mess, and I became the laughingstock of everyone's idle gossip. Later on, I thought about getting a divorce, but I was pregnant. I thought that was an opportunity given to me by heaven. But on the day of delivery, Jiang He rushed to the hospital, crying and making a scene, claiming I was bullying her by using my pregnancy as leverage. She demanded I write an 800-word apology letter. But that time, it was clearly because she tripped me on purpose that I argued with her a few words. The contractions were so painful. I wished I were dead, but Lou Kitchen paid no attention to me, wouldn't listen to my explanations, just held Jiang He to comfort her. Even when the doctor said the baby was hypoxic and needed an immediate switch from vaginal delivery to a C-section, he remained unmoved only because Jiang He said it was me and the doctor acting together just to evade punishment. Fortunately, in the end, it was a close call, and I gave birth to my daughter smoothly. But from then on, I suffered from postpartum depression. Jiang He says this is just being overly sentimental and needs to be fixed. Lou Kitchen simply ignores me. Imported medication is too expensive, and he won't give me the money. He asks if I've finished putting on my act yet. On the day I was sickest, I reached out to Lou Kitchen for help, only to have him coldly hang up the phone. "Not everyone is as idle as you. Don't you know how busy I am every day?" But after hanging up, I saw Jiang He's social media post. In a dimly lit private room, there was a huge birthday cake. She was sitting on a man's lap. The caption read, "Thank you, President Liu, for taking the latest flight just to celebrate my birthday. I'd want to be your brother, even in our next lifetime." It suddenly hit me. That day was also my wedding anniversary. In an instant, I heard the sound of my heart breaking. On that night filled with fireworks across the sky, I held my young daughter in my arms and leaped from the balcony. The feeling of being shattered to pieces was truly unbearable. After returning home, I logged into my email and replied to a message. I studied architectural design in college. After graduation, Lou Kitchen thought the design work was tiring and didn't pay well. He wanted me to work at the Lu Corporation, even though others said I didn't need to work hard and just wait to enjoy life. But I never gave up on studying my major. Not only did I take online courses and earn my certification early, but I also pursued a master's degree. While working, last month, my graduation project won an award abroad. It caught the attention of a German company, which offered me a high-paying job to recruit me. I wouldn't even consider it, but now, I've changed my mind. I need to leave Lu Kitchen. The farther, the better. The start date was quickly set, coincidentally on the day of my originally planned wedding. Just as I was about to let out a sigh of relief, I suddenly heard the heart-wrenching howls of a dog from the living room. I knew it was Jiang He, who had arrived again. The dog was a gift from Lu Kitchen. When he proposed, not long after, Jiang He also got herself a dog. When I walked into the living room, Jiang He's beagle was cornering my little Pomeranian, tearing and biting at it. Seeing me come out, Jiang He's smile grew even wider. Your Pomeranian is really useless. So timid. My beagle is just playing with you. Come say hello. After saying that, she gave the Pomeranian a kick. The Pomeranian tucked its tail and hid under the stool, with blood dripping from its ears. I didn't hesitate and went out with the stun baton. Lu Kitchen was often not at home at night, and I was a bit timid, so I had bought it earlier for self-defense. Now it finally came in handy. Watching the beagle fall, Jiang He glared at me angrily. Big sister, even if you don't welcome me, you shouldn't take it out on the dog. Brother Chun, look at her. Lu Kitchen walked over, looking down at me from his imposing height. Song Yuaning, what's wrong with you? Apologized to Jiang He now. I ignored him, and instead picked up Bao Mei, using iodine to treat its wounds. Upon seeing the torn wounds, Lu Kitchen's face changed, but he quickly returned to normal. It's just a dog. If something really happens, I'll just buy you another one. She's just a child at heart. You should let her have her way. Once again, such boundless, baseless favoritism. But this time, I wasn't hurt, nor was I sad, and I certainly wouldn't hysterically question Lu Kitchen. Who is more important, me or Jiang He? This kind of life is utterly suffocating. A world for 3 people is far too crowded. Most importantly, I still want to live a few more years. Need to stay away from everything that causes my nodes to grow. I carried the dog back into the room and heard Jiang He speaking, with a sarcastic tone. Women just love engaging in catfights, turning everyone into an imaginary rival. That's why I don't like hanging out with them. The other friends all rushed to comfort her. Who doesn't know the saying? Brothers are like limbs. Women are like clothes. Don't be angry anymore. Blame Lu Kitchen for saving her in the first place. Like a sticking plaster. Now he's about to step into the grave of marriage. Do you regret it? Ha ha ha. Laughter broke out in waves, mostly mocking. It seemed they found it unbelievable that Lu Kitchen had stumbled. Because of me, Lu Kitchen remained silent as usual. I used to comfort myself. Friends are friends. Lu Kitchen is Lu Kitchen. But the attitude of friends can also represent him. No wonder Lu Kitchen's friends felt I wasn't good enough for him. After all, I used to think the same way. Lu Kitchen had wealth, good looks, and a great physique, leaving all his peers in the dust. Meanwhile, back in college, I was still relying on financial aid for students from poor families. After I exhausted every ounce of effort, relying on burning the midnight oil to get into a prestigious university, only then did I understand what it truly means to be born ahead of a starting line. Because of my poverty, I was ostracized by the girls in my class. They locked me inside the restroom. He cornered me in the woods at the worst of times. They grabbed me by the collar and threw me into the fire hydrant basin. It was Lu Kitchen, who happened to pass by, and rescued me. When he wrapped his coat around me, I thought of a line. My destined one is a hero, who will come to marry me one day on a cloud of 7 colors. So, when Lu Kitchen asked me if I wanted his girlfriend, I agreed, without hesitation. I thought this would be the turning point of my life. Little did I know there was more to the story. I guessed the beginning, but I could not have predicted this ending. Now that I know how it ends, how could I possibly step into that trap again? I used the money from returning the ring to buy a plane ticket and book a hotel. In the remaining 10 days, I still have a lot of things to take care of. Right at this moment, Lou Kitchen frowned as he opened the door. You didn't prepare any beer. And the TV. Why can't it work? It suddenly dawned on me. Lou Kitchen's friends came to watch the World Cup. In the past few days, I would prepare delicious fruit, chilled beer, and turn on the air conditioner early. Looking back now, I really was a doormat. I said, without looking back. I canceled my cable. Every bit you can save helps. Moving abroad means renting a place. And the cost of living won't be cheap either. Hearing my answer, Lou Kitchen froze for a long moment. Then he let out a sigh. You've really got a temper lately. I'll spend the whole day with you tomorrow. All right. Just don't pick a fight with them. I didn't bother asking whether I was the one causing trouble or if they were. It's just stating a fact. I'm going to the hospital to see my mom tomorrow. He froze for a moment before speaking. Okay, I'll go. With you. I didn't respond, because I didn't take it seriously at all. As expected, the next day, he got a phone call and was about to leave. Before leaving, it was only when he met my gaze that he remembered today's appointment. Lou Kitchen guiltily averted his gaze. You always say I don't take the wedding seriously. So today, I'll go confirm the guest list. And the drink menu. Go to the hospital yourself this time. I'll accompany you next time. I already knew. Between me and Jiang He, I will never be the chosen one. Without anger or resentment, I quietly packed my bags. What should be thrown away is thrown away, and what should be packed is packed. On the way to the hospital, Mother was somewhat surprised. Why do you have time to come over? Weren't you busy preparing for the wedding recently? Hearing Mother's concern, my eyes instantly welled up with tears. Mom always disapproved of me being with Lou Kitchen, feeling there was too much disparity in our family backgrounds. Yet I was blinded by what I believed to be love. I insisted on marrying him in my past life. Even after I became pregnant, Mom still tried to persuade me. Maybe let's just forget about it. Jiang He is clearly a restless soul. Lou Kitchen just can't see things clearly. When will these days ever come to an end? But I refused to accept this. After all, it was Lou Kitchen who pursued me, promising to take responsibility. Why can't he just discard me so easily after I gave him my heart and body? Not to mention, we already have a child together. He should settle down. But in the end, it proved that I had lost the bet. I still remember in my previous life, not long after I committed suicide, my mother also swallowed sleeping pills and followed me to the end. How could I abandon my own mother for a man? I truly deserve to die. I didn't say much to my mother, only that medical technology in Germany is more advanced. I want to take her away with me. After completing the discharge procedures, it was already late in the evening. A heavy weight lifted from my heart. I let out a sigh of relief. As I walked to the pedestrian street near the residential area, I gazed at the bustling crowd. I walked into a bar, planning to have a couple of drinks. They say alcohol is a good thing. The ancients truly did not deceive me. When I drank just to the right point, I'm feeling much better now, and ready to get up and leave. But someone grabs my arm. Chen-gu, isn't this your wife? I already told you. With just one word from you, she'd rush over here. Without delay. What a paragon of virtue. The perfect wife. And mother indeed, though the words were complimentary. His tone betrayed no hint of praise. I followed the direction of his gesture, with my gaze only to find Lou Kitchen was also here. Of course, Jiang He was by his side. I instinctively checked my phone, and only then realized half an hour ago, Lou Kitchen had sent me a message asking me to pick him up from the bar. What a stroke of bad luck. I shouldn't have come here. Lou Kitchen casually shoved the car keys into my hand. Drive the car to the entrance. We'll take Jiang He home first. I glanced at Jiang He, who was snuggled in Lou Kitchen's arms. The strapless top revealed a flash of white skin, while Lou Kitchen's jacket was draped over her shoulders outside. The two of them nestled together like this, evoking a sense of deep affection between husband and wife. Suddenly, I felt a bit nauseated. I didn't take the car keys, and spoke indifferently. I drank today, so I can't drive. Lou Kitchen frowned. Didn't you say you don't drink? Jiang He snorted coldly. Everyone knows you can't drink. Yet you're using that as an excuse to brush off Chen-gu. If you don't want to give him a ride, just say so. She finished speaking and pouted her lips, looking utterly innocent, like she'd been wronged. Seeing her aggrieved expression, Lu Kitchen's face darkened immediately. Song Yuaning, Jiang, he has already apologized about the wedding dress. Can you stop being so petty? I looked at him like he was an idiot. Did I say anything? Lu Kitchen was taken aback. Indeed, I never touched a drop of alcohol in front of Lu Kitchen. After all, at least one of us had to stay sober. So for all these years, I dutifully served as his personal driver. Whenever he finished a business dinner, I would appear as soon as he called. But now, I let out a self-mocking sneer, turned around, and walked out the door. But I didn't expect. I just booked a designated driver. Lu Kitchen suddenly pushed Jiang He into my car. He glanced at me and said, "You listen to me. Jiang He's health is delicate. Take her home first." With that, he turned to greet his friends standing at the entrance of the bar. I replied, without turning my head, "Get down." Jiang He propped herself up, staring steadily at me, eyes clear and bright, a stark contrast to the person who had just collapsed, drunk, into Lu Kitchen's arms. If I recall correctly, this car was bought for you by Brother Chen, wasn't it? They say, when you drink water, remember who dug the well. Yet here you are, using someone else's things, without the slightest hint of shame. If it weren't for Brother Chen, would you ever be able to drive a car like this in your lifetime? If anyone should get out, it should be you. You poor wretch. My hand gripping the purse tightened. It said that, when you eat another's food, your words grow shorter. When you take another's things, your reach grows shorter. Technically speaking, this car really isn't mine. I turned and got out of the car, only to bump right into Lu Kitchen. He shot me a glance. What are you up to? This isn't my car. I have no right to sit in it. Left the spare key in the car. Do whatever you want with it. Lu Kitchen was utterly confused by this. Who says it's not yours? I bought it for you, so it's yours. He instinctively looked at Jiang He, about to ask a question, but she preempted him. He saw Jiang He leaning against the car window, pouting, looking troubled. Brother Chen, she probably doesn't want to be with me. Maybe it's better if I leave. Lu Kitchen's patience instantly ran out. Song Yuaning, stop being so sarcastic. It's just a ride in a car. How come I never noticed before how petty you are? Seeing him get so worked up over Jiang He's comment, I couldn't help but ask. You said you were going to look over the drink menu and seating chart today. How did it go? As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Kitchen's expression twisted like he'd swallowed a fly. He avoided eye contact. It's fine. Everything's arranged pretty well. I scoffed coldly. A liar. If he goes, he'll find out that the wedding is simply not there. I went back by taxi on my own. There are only 9 days left before I leave, so it's not necessary to bother renting a place. Besides, I haven't finished packing my things yet. It was more than an hour after I got home before Lu Kitchen returned. He walked to the kitchen island as usual, but didn't find what he was looking for. He loosened his tie and asked me, "You didn't make hangover soup?" I just glanced at him and said nothing. Perhaps feeling guilty himself, Lu Kitchen walked over and wrapped his arms around my waist from behind. He said in a casual tone, "What? Are you really angry? You know Jiang He. That's just how she is. Never holds back with her words. Don't take it to heart." When speaking, he stared at me without blinking, his face handsome and affectionate. In the past, I would have been captivated by such a gaze, thinking he must love me. But now, I think, with those peach blossom eyes of his, even looking at a dog would seem deep with affection. But in his heart, even a dog is probably more value than me. I raised my hand, my index finger tracing the line of Lu Kitchen's neck. He thought my anger had subsided. He lowered his head, about to kiss me. Yet, I drove the point home, with emphasis. You didn't wipe the lipstick mark here clean. Lu Kitchen's face abruptly turned deathly pale. I am now immensely relieved. Lu Kitchen never stays overnight in my room. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll vomit if I look at him for one more second. The next day, I got up early and went to the Lu Corporation. No matter how Lu Kitchen behaves, My colleagues in the tech department have treated me quite well. Before leaving, I need to hand over the tasks I'm currently handling. Otherwise, I'd feel guilty leaving behind a mess. Given my position, resigning doesn't require approval from Lou Kitchen. My colleagues thought I was getting married soon and would be returning home to take care of my husband and children, so they didn't ask too many questions. Only my mentor, who had been guiding me, shared a few heartfelt words. Xiao Song, while a happy marriage is wonderful, personal growth is also very important. You. What a pity. Truly. I smiled, without saying a word. If my colleagues found out I was going abroad, who knows what kind of storm it would stir up. I planned to tell my mentor the whole story after I'd gone overseas. And besides, there was something important I needed to deal with right now. Master, I've already submitted the application for that project I won the Luban Award for. Could you give me a copy of those application materials? As a newcomer going abroad, it's always good to have some achievements to back me up. Just in case. My master was very pleased to hear that. No problem at all. With your professional skills being so strong, you should never give them up, no matter what. Said goodbye to my colleagues, cleaned up my workstation. Arriving home, it was a bit earlier than my usual time off from work. Surprisingly, I found meals had already been prepared at home. Lou Kitchen wore an apron, truly looking the part of a house husband. If only Jiang he wasn't standing beside her. Lou Kitchen said gently, Jiang he wanted to apologize to you, so she specially cooked a meal to treat you. Even so, Jiang he neither greeted me nor looked at me when she spoke. Instead, she bumped into Lou Kitchen. If it weren't for Brother Chen, I wouldn't have come at all. She said this while giving me a sidelong glance. Lou Kitchen looked awkward, but it passed in an instant. He then gestured for me to sit down and eat. I didn't move, just glanced over the spread of Sichuan dishes on the table. I don't eat spicy food. I'm allergic to seafood. So, who did you prepare all this for? After hearing this, Jiang he pouted. I told you I shouldn't have come. She's definitely doing this on purpose to go against me. Humph. Seeing her about to leave, Lou Kitchen quickly pulled her back, half dragging and half carrying her into his embrace. Then, he turned his head and shot me a glare. Stop being so picky. You usually eat anything without complaint. Why are you making such a fuss today? I feel like throwing up. Just as I was about to leave the scene to avoid trouble, I suddenly got a call from my boss. My boss rarely contacts me after work hours, so it must be something urgent. I answered immediately. Master's voice sounded somewhat panicked. Xiao Song, I don't know what happened either. On the project application, the name isn't yours. I glanced at the two people in front of me and suddenly had a bad feeling. His voice was almost trembling. Who is it? Jiang He. In that instant, I felt as if all the blood in my body had frozen. Lou Kitchen evidently overheard the phone conversation. He awkwardly rubbed his nose and said, Jiang he is about to join the Jiang family business, but the family isn't optimistic about her. She needs some achievements to back her up. So, you gave her my project. Lou Kitchen, I always knew you had no heart, but I didn't expect you to have such a thick skin. I was wondering why a weasel would be paying New Year's respects to a chicken. Turns out, you're up to no good. In a fit of anger, I overturned the table in their direction. Ever since my rebirth, I've been holding on to the mindset that it's better to avoid trouble than to invite it. Because I know, with my abilities, I'm no match for the Liu and Jiang families. They could crush me as easily as stepping on an ant. I swallowed all the bitterness, all the grievances. I just wanted to stay far, far away, live your own small life. Yet even so, they insist on sticking their noses in. Instantly, the sound of shattering plates fills the air, without end. The soup, mixed with chili peppers, splashes all over Lou Kitchen and Jiang He. Like blood, my eyes were crimson as I glared at them. I don't care how messy you were. With her, this is the fruit of my labor. How dare you? Jiang He's sobs nearly drowned out my shouts. She hopped and clung to Lou Kitchen, sticking to him like glue. Song Yuaning, you crazy woman. Brother Chun, look at her. Yet this time, Lou Kitchen did not, as usual, blindly take her side. and blame me, but stared intently at my ferocious face, as if he didn't recognize me at all. It took a long time, so long that Jiang He's cries had already ceased. Only then did Lu Kitchen speak in a hoarse voice. Mom wants to hold her grandchild. Once we're married, we'll start trying for a baby. Besides, you're about to step back from your career anyway. Right. At the thought of having a child, my whole body trembled. In my previous life, hearing those words filled me with such joy. I thought he had finally settled down and wanted to build a proper life with me. I quit my job to focus on preparing for pregnancy. But what have I gained? A body shattered beyond recognition. I scoffed coldly. Have a child? You don't deserve it. What belongs to others I won't take. But what's mine? No one can snatch away. Lu Kitchen was stunned. His face instantly darkened, looking as if it could drip. With malice, he leisurely took off his soiled coat and casually tossed it into a nearby trash bin. He assumed a posture ready to negotiate with me. You're well aware of the Lu family's legal team's capabilities. Even if you pursue legal action, the outcome will remain the same. Be sensible. Let's have a child. A happy family. Isn't that better? If you keep making a scene, the only one who will end up looking bad is you. As these words were spoken, Jiang He looked at me triumphantly, his gaze full of disdain, as if victory was already in hand. Facing Lu Kitchen's sharp gaze, I let out a self-mocking cold laugh, laughing at myself for sharing a bed with someone like this for so long. I spoke slowly. I know I can't compete with you. So, if I can't have it, no one will. Let's just go through the legal process. After all, I have nothing to lose. Let's see who ends up more embarrassed when the time comes. I had thought there was still 8 days left. No need to move out and alert him prematurely. But I still overestimated Lu Kitchen's humanity. After all, there wasn't much left in the house anyway. That same night, I packed up my things and left. When I left, I carried only a single suitcase. Lu Kitchen thought I was just leaving in a fit of anger. And as I left, he didn't forget to hurl a few cutting words. Think carefully. Once you step out this door, it won't be so easy to come back. I quickened my pace. I found a random hotel to make my final preparations before going abroad. Things remained quiet on Lu Kitchen's end for 2 days. On the 3rd day, he suddenly started sending me messages frequently. Which tie should I wear? With this shirt, the clothes got color run in the wash. What should I do? I need to wear this white shirt tomorrow. My stomach hurts again. Where did you put the stomach medicine? When are you coming back? I'll pick you up. I didn't reply to any of them. But I never imagined Lu Kitchen would still come to find me. He even reached the hotel room 1 step ahead of me. Right. The Lu family could even alter the name on the application documents. Investigating someone's accommodation details would be a piece of cake. I initially thought it didn't matter, until I saw Lu Kitchen tap the passport and visa laid out in front of him. My heart tightened. Had he discovered something? Lu Kitchen stood up and said, "Passport's all prepared. I did say I've been a bit busy lately. We can make up the honeymoon next year." I let out a sigh of relief. Thankfully, he didn't notice. I don't want any last-minute surprises, seeing that I didn't react much. Lu Kitchen suddenly grasped my hand. "I've already applied to correct the name on the Lu Ban award application. You should withdraw the lawsuit. Jiang He has realized his mistake, so you shouldn't be so stubborn either. When we go back, let's shake hands and make peace, and consider this matter settled. We can still be like before." He finished speaking. He tried to embrace me, but I pushed him away forcefully. I looked at his eager face, his red lips opening and closing. "You've slept together, haven't you?" Lu Kitchen froze in place and looked at me in disbelief. I glanced at the nightstand. There used to be 2 boxes, but now there's only 1 left inside. Are you surprised? Just because I never said anything doesn't mean I was naive. She looks down on me, and all your friends look down on me, too. Did you really not know? Using the name of friendship to engage in all kinds of ambiguous actions. Would Jiang He also go to bed with her other brothers? Hearing those last words, Lu Kitchen finally snapped. "Stop with the nonsense. Keep our business between us. Don't drag others into it. Seems like you've gotten too comfortable and are just looking for trouble." Exactly as expected. When someone feels guilty, they often cover it up by accusing others of stirring up trouble out of thin air. Lou Kitchen sighed. Do you know how much pressure I withstood from my family in order to marry you? People cannot lack all sense of conscience, nor should they seize on a single mistake and never let go. Since you still can't understand, take another couple of days to think it over. Just don't make a fool of yourself on the wedding day. After saying that, he practically fled in a panic. For several days in a row, Lou Kitchen didn't contact me. Perhaps I had hurt his pride. With those words, my flight ticket is booked for 2 days before the originally planned wedding date. Long-distance travel is exhausting, so it's better to arrive a day early to rest and adjust. The day of departure, the long silent chat window with Lou Kitchen suddenly lights up with a new message. Sorry, Jung he wants to go to the Arctic to see the northern lights for her birthday. We're leaving today, and we'll try our best to make it back early in the morning on the day of the wedding. When we return this time, I promise I'll keep my distance from her. You wait for me obediently. People can laugh out loud when they are at the peak of anger. I really never could have imagined where Lou Kitchen's bottom line is. I confronted him directly. Why go through all this trouble? Just let her be the bride. Or you could just hold the wedding directly at the North Pole. Less hassle. Lou Kitchen only replied with 3 words. Stop fooling around. I immediately blocked him anyway. I'm leaving. There's no need to keep up the act. But I only blocked him, forgetting about the other main character. When I landed in Germany, my phone keeps buzzing with messages one after another. All of them are from Jiang He. There was one of Lou Kitchen in the master bedroom, wrapped in a towel, and another of their fingers tightly interlaced, and her selfie on the bed, covered in red marks. Do you usually fail to satisfy Brother Chin? He nearly wrecked me, but considering he secured another major award for me, helping me solidify my position in the Jiang family, I have no choice but to satisfy him unconditionally. My heart remained completely undisturbed. Just took a screenshot of the chat history and posted it to my Moments, with images and explanations included, easy to understand in just a few minutes. It had already received hundreds of comments. Lou Kitchen must have seen it and sent me a text message. Hurry up and delete that moment from your social media. What nonsense are you spouting? Do you know how much Jiang he cried over this? Didn't we agree to keep your distance from her once we're back? Can't you be a little more sensible? I didn't reply. Instead, I took a screenshot of this message and posted it as a new moment on my social media feed. The caption read, A and a dog, a perfect match forever. After landing in Germany, I have many things to keep me busy. I never opened Moments again. But then, on the very first day of my new job, my phone suddenly blew up with calls, all from Lou Kitchen's friends. The wedding is about to start. Where are you? You can throw a tantrum, but there has to be a limit. If Brother Chin gets really angry and decides to leave you, it'll be too late even if you get on your knees and beg. I took the subway to the company. You idiots! If you don't use your brains, you can donate them. Didn't you see his bed photos? With Jiang He. It's over between me and Lou Kitchen. Let him marry Jiang He. After shouting that out, I felt refreshed and clear-headed. I just glanced around guiltily. It's good that they're all foreigners. They probably don't understand me cursing. I was just about to hang up the phone when a faint rustling sound suddenly came from the other end. When the voice spoke again, it belonged to Lou Kitchen. Song Yuaning, when did you resign? The hotel wedding arrangements have also been cancelled. How come I didn't know anything about it? You're lying to me, aren't you? How could you bear to leave me? We promised we'd get married. If you come back now, I can pretend nothing ever happened. I let out a soft sigh. Lou Kitchen. I left a note on the bedside table. Haven't you gone back home these past few days? Have you been sleeping in Jiang He's bed every night? You have the nerve to question me. Do you even have any shame? I hung up the phone, pulled out the SIM card anyway. The information that needed to be saved has already been transferred to the new card. The old one is no longer needed. Just when I thought things were over, Lou Kitchen suddenly came to Germany to find me. Nink nink. It's really over between me and Jiang He. Going to the North Pole was just to bid her farewell. Please don't be angry anymore. Come back. With me. Okay. He followed me, wanting to hold me and kiss me. I called the police, accusing him of harassment. When the police arrived, he claimed to be my boyfriend, yet he couldn't even produce a single piece of evidence to prove we were a couple. Yes, we never had wedding photos taken, because he found it too troublesome. Even our group photos are pitifully few. The only ones are on my old phone. We didn't even get our marriage certificate, because he never had the time. Lou Kitchen had no choice but to leave sullenly, yet he didn't give up, returning almost every week. Lou Kitchen bothering me was one thing, but I never expected Jiang He to somehow get a hold of my phone number. Drunkenly throwing a tantrum at me. Song Yuaning wasn't playing. With Brother Chen on your wedding day enough, now you're shamelessly clinging to him. Is this fun for you? If I had known you were such a wretched woman, I should have just drowned you right then and there. Hearing this, I was truly taken aback for a moment. What do you mean? She sneered relentlessly. Do you really think there's such a thing as a knight in shining armor? If Chun and I could be together, what would you even be? We have countless firsts with each other. The first time we held hands, the first kiss, the first time we slept together. Even the different techniques he knows were learned. With me. Did you know that? I only caught one sentence. What do you mean you can't be together? Song Yuaning was taken aback, perhaps realizing she had said too much, and hurriedly hung up the phone. A vague truth gradually began to surface in my heart. I hired someone in the country to start investigating Lou Kitchen. Within a few days, results began to come in. After all, within their circles, this wasn't exactly a secret. Lou Kitchen and Jiang He are actually close relatives. They haven't even gone beyond the 5 morning grades in their family tree. No wonder they've done everything intimately, but aren't together. No wonder Lou Kitchen's mother, who clearly doesn't like me, accepted someone of common birth like me marrying into the Lou family. Everything had an answer. When Lou Kitchen found me again, I agreed to have a meal with him. He looked very happy. He took me to a high-end restaurant. I also bought a big bunch of roses, full of joy. He wanted to mend our relationship and be friends again. I got straight to the point. So, you knew it was Jiang He who was behind the school bullying back then? Not a question, but a statement. Lou Kitchen's expression changed instantly. His tone became hesitant and evasive. I only knew she was bullying a little girl at the time. I didn't know it was you that day. Seeing her cross the line. You saved me, and you took advantage of my feelings for you to be with me, just to cover up your shady relationship with Jiang He. Lou Kitchen abruptly looked up at me. Who told you? After learning the truth, I felt strangely relieved. I still remember my past life. I always doubt myself. Was I not good enough somewhere? After all, Lou Kitchen was the one who pursued me. Why does he not want me now? Since Mrs. Liu was willing to let me in, she must have liked me, too. But why can't I see any joy on their faces? At every family banquet, I always sit in the most inconspicuous corner. Even after having children, my situation hasn't improved. Now I know, because the more I gained, the more guilt Lou Kitchen felt towards Jiang He. From the beginning to the end, I have been living in a lie. The company has an opportunity for an overseas posting, and I've applied for it. Fortunately, in this lifetime, I never sank into the mire. As for Lou Kitchen, whether he regrets it or not has nothing to do with me anymore. I wholeheartedly wish him nothing but a painful death. The news about Lou Kitchen resurfaced again 3 months later. The cause was Mrs. Liu arranging an arranged marriage for him. Jiang He loves, but cannot have, driving her to madness online. How could you abandon me? I gave you my first time at 18, and even had a child for you. What about blood relations? You said nothing could come between us. I've waited for you all these years. Why can't we be together? For a while, the Liu household was practically in utter chaos. But these things have nothing to do with me anymore. Another year has passed. I heard that Lou Kitchen has been blessed with a son. On the same day, Jiang He took his own life, just as I did in my previous existence. Lou Kitchen's side story. I can't find Song Yuaning anymore. She clearly loved me so much. How could she bear to leave me? I admit, at first I had other intentions. When I got together with her. But after being together for 8 years, I've long considered her the closest person to me. She was so good to me. Unlike Jung Hee, who was always making a fuss, always putting me first. But I've lost her. Jung Hee has stirred up a mess. I have no choice but to get married as soon as possible. The arranged marriage partner is Wu Qing, the heiress of the Hua Group. She looks quite beautiful. So I agreed. First, stabilize the company's stock market, then continue searching for Song Yuaning. Yet, just a couple of days after the wedding, I saw my arranged marriage wife bring another man into our marital home. They were entangled passionately in our bed. She even looks like she's enjoying herself more than when she was with me. I was trembling with rage, but she just shrugged nonchalantly. Look, who's talking? Didn't you have plenty of fun outside? Too. What utter nonsense. How could it be the same for men and women after I caught them in the act? She didn't hold back. Instead, she took it to another level. When I was drunk, I asked her to come pick me up, but she actually started flirting with the guy next to me. She hung up on me directly. Every day, when I come home, she's never there. There's no hot waiting for me, either. And she never does any housework. If Song Yuaning were here, she would have already made soup for me. She would have asked if my work has been hard. Within 2 months, she became pregnant. I don't even know if the child is mine. Wu Qing wouldn't let me make it public. Otherwise, she would sever all cooperation between the Wu family and the Lu family. I always wondered why the Wu family, with their capital, would form a marriage alliance with the Lu family. It turns out Wu Qing is nothing but damaged goods. During this time, Jiang He came to see me more than once. Her cries were heart-wrenching, but in my heart, there was only annoyance. She actually had the nerve to trouble Wu Qing again, with the same old tricks. Wu Qing was furious. I had no choice but to make Jiang He apologize to Wu Qing. Let's leave it at that for now. I'll go coax Jiang He after this blows over. We'll talk after Wu Qing gives birth. But I didn't expect Jiang He is dead. When I heard the news of her death, I stood dazed for a long time on the street, just like the day Song Yuaning left. Suddenly, I feel utterly worthless. In this lifetime, I have been blessed with the love of 2 women. When I was with Song Yuaning, I was afraid of hurting Jiang He. After being with Jiang He, I still couldn't forget Song Yuaning. In the end, both of them left me behind. One day later on, I returned home dead drunk. I tripped and fell the moment I entered the door. Vomit was splattered all over the floor. I called out Wu Qing's name, but from the bedroom, only the heavy panting of her and a man could be heard. By the time they found me, my corpse had turned cold. I was thinking at the time, if only Song Yuaning were here. Jiang He did just fine after hearing the second story above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. After my rebirth, I deliberately avoided every gathering. With Gu Qian, he said he was going home for the holidays, so I said I would stay on campus to study. When he took Lu Zaiwenqing and her son to live at his place, I simply moved out on my own. He's staying behind at school, and I once again boarded the train heading northwest alone. In my previous life, I toiled for him for most of my life, but in old age, even my own son begged me to divorce him, just so that after 100 years, I could fulfill their tragic love story. No one knows I've been reborn. Looking at the acceptance letter before me, I still found it somewhat hard to believe. Lin Sui, don't you want to reconsider? Although conditions may be harsh in the Northwest. Northwestern Polytechnical University. Behind the office desk, Qin Su, my former physics teacher, continued trying to persuade me, without giving up hope. Seeing that familiar face again, I nearly shed tears. In my previous life, I loved physics dearly, yet few believed a girl could excel at it. When everyone else thought girls couldn't master physics, she alone firmly believed that women could excel at it, too. But in the end, I let her down, because after marrying Gu Qian, I became pregnant very quickly and gave up on attending university as a result. And now, I have reborn before marrying Gu Qian. Thinking of all the events from my past life, I shook my head, holding back my tear-filled eyes. No, Miss Qin, there's no need to think it over. She intended to persuade me further, but then she heard me say firmly, "I'll go." She hesitated again. "I heard your fiancé is planning to stay at the university. If you go so far away for college, will he still wait for you?" Hearing her mention Gu Qian, the image of his tall, straight-backed figure from his youth surfaced in my mind again, but it was soon replaced by a shadow, recalling the events of my previous life. I shook my head, with a hint of self-mockery, but then I added nonchalantly, "It's fine, teacher. Nowadays, free love is all the rage." The arranged marriage between him and me was just a leftover from feudal society. "It's not worth keeping." She had probably also heard some of the rumors as she stood up and patted me on the shoulder. "It's a relief to hear you say that." Her eyes held a hint of approval, and she added, with encouragement, "Lin Sui, I'm looking forward to the day you truly shine." I smiled, unable to hold back. "Teacher, I'm afraid you've forgotten the meaning behind Northwestern Polytechnical University's most famous sculpture." I had no hesitation in changing my application to Northwestern Polytechnical University. Following the flow of people, I made my way back to the current residence I shared with Gu Qian. According to my memory, Gu Qian would not be around in the coming days, because during this time, he should have been busy accompanying Lu Ziwenking and her child back to their hometown to visit relatives. Pushing open the door and looking at the empty house, I breathed a sigh of relief, while mocking myself. Otherwise, I'm not sure if the current me would have dragged him down, with me to perish together. It took me quite a while to truly grasp the reality that I had been reborn. My fingers glided over the smooth wooden surface of the table. There were no scratches of any kind, nor any messy graffiti. At the corner of the desk, there was only a stack of books I used for review, and a jar of snowflake cream. Thinking about the cause of my death in my previous life, I smirked coldly, since he loved Lu Ziwenking and her son so much in his last life. Let him figure out his own reincarnation this time. Who would have thought that in my previous life, I was actually angered to death by my own biological son? In my previous life, though the affair between Gu Qian and Lu Ziwenking caused me pain, it was nothing compared to the agony of being betrayed by my own son, whom I had raised with my own hands. Remember clearly the rage I felt upon learning from an old friend that he had married Lu Ziwenking's daughter behind my back. I couldn't help trembling all over as I rushed to confront him, demanding why it had to be Lu Ziwenking's daughter of all people. He clearly knows about Lu Ziwenking, and his father, he clearly once suffered because of Gu Qian's favoritism. How could he? I cannot accept that the child I raised single-handedly ended up being bewitched by that mother-daughter pair as well. At first, Gu Yunian hemmed and hawed, but as the pressure mounted, he pushed me away in frustration and said, "What's so bad about Aunt Ziwenking? At least she's more cultured than you, and she knows how to live life better. Mom, can't you just let go? Dad suffered because of you all his life. If it weren't for you, he should have been with Aunt Ziwenking long ago. You two just don't seem right for each other in every way. Why can't you just let go?" At that moment, I don't know how to describe my feelings, only feeling as if all the blood in my body froze in that instant. My own biological son, whom I raised with my own hands, is now looking down on me. At that moment, even the pain in my lower back bumped against the corner of the table, with a herniated disc from years of life's hardships, couldn't compare to a 10,000th of the pain in my heart. And at that moment, I finally understood what it truly means to have 10,000 arrows pierce one's heart. Yes, she, Lu Ziwenking, has been elegantly protected by Gu Qian her whole life. Of course, she understands life better than I do. When Gu Yunian was born, Gu Qian was just assigned to work elsewhere, and he took Lu Ziwenking and their daughter with him. By the time Gu Yunian turned 3 and could be sent to kindergarten, I was just planning to resume my studies, but then Gu Qian's father fell ill. After handling the arrangements for Gu's father's passing, it wasn't long before Gu's mother accidentally fell and became bedridden due to paralysis. After my parents passed away, it was Mr. and Mrs. Gu who took me back to the Gu family, and they treated me very well. So once again, I set everything aside and took Gu Yunian back to my hometown, and this time, we stayed for another 10 years. I clutched my chest and collapsed to the ground, reaching out, trying to touch the door that Gu Yunian had long since shut. But in the end, my gaze could only linger helplessly on that emaciated, terribly aged hand. Lu Zaiwenqing was 5 years older than me. Yet at that age, she could still paint her slender fingers with red polish, while I, long worn down by life, already resembled an old woman. I glared at that hand in bitter resentment, my eyes wide open in death. Perhaps my resentment was too strong, compelling the heavens to grant me this chance once more. I stretched out my hand, examined its current fair and tender state, and couldn't help but smile. He, Gu Yinian, thinks he knows why I dragged it out all those years ago. Gu Qian kept climbing the ladder of success, and between taking care of him and his mother, I simply had no time for anything else. Both my studies and my career were put on hold, so what else could I do but keep going? But I forgot that to love others, one must first love oneself. I also forgot that as my son grew up, he would never truly empathize with his mother. I was so terribly wrong. Fortunately, with the second chance at life, there is still time to make everything right. This time, I refused to be bound by those hollow moral obligations. By the time Gu Qian returned, I had already dealt with most of my belongings. I gathered my few belongings and hid them, along with the admission letter, in the corner of a wardrobe. After tidying up the room, I started cooking. Just as the meal was ready, Gu Qian came in, pushing the door open, with Lu Zaiwenqing and her son. That smells amazing. Lu Zaiwenqing, acting like the lady of the house, went to lift the lid off the pot on the stove. Without a second thought, I quickly picked up the small pot, brushed past her to the doorway, and called out, "Here, boy," to the big yellow dog right in front of her. I emptied the entire pot of spare ribs into the dog's bowl, ignoring Lu Zaiwenqing's suddenly changed expression. I went ahead and brought out of noodles to eat by myself. With the memories from my past life, I already knew they'd be coming back today. But Gu Qian from my previous life told me that Lu Shiweiqing was just the widow of his comrade in arms. He took care of her and her daughter because he was entrusted by his comrade. In my previous life, I did notice something off, but I didn't dwell on it because I was also influenced by some comments. I felt somewhat insecure about whether I was truly worthy of Gu Qian. He is good-looking and ambitious, and also a non-commissioned officer in a military academy. Yet, it was only through our arranged marriage that I came to be with him. Before we got married, I had earnestly asked Gu Qian if he wanted to reconsider, but he simply said there was nothing between him and Lu Shiweiqing, telling me not to think too much about it. Now, reborn into this life, I lowered my head to eat my noodles, unable to hold back a cold sneer. I wonder what his comrade in arms would think if he knew from beyond the grave that Gu Qian had taken care of his widow all the way to his own bed. By the time Gu Qian came out of the room, Lu Shiweiqing and her daughter had already put on completely different expressions. Lu Shiweiqing's daughter stared at me eagerly, then reached out to tug at the hem of Gu Qian's clothes, pleading pitifully, "Uncle Gu, I'm hungry." I slurped up my noodles as if deaf to the world, while Gu Qian frowned at me and asked accusingly, "Didn't you cook any rice?" I looked up and glanced at him. The young Gu Qian was undoubtedly handsome, but after the previous life, I no longer feel the same stirring. When I look at him now, I said coldly, "I cooked. Didn't know you'd be back, so I only made some for myself." He glanced at the noodles in front of me, still frowning. "Didn't I just smell you stewing bones?" I continued eating my noodles, with my head down, and said calmly, "That's a postpartum meal for De Huang." Gu Qian's eyebrows furrowed deeply. Without waiting for him to say anything more, I picked up my empty bowl and quickly washed it in the sink. When we came out again, I heard Lu Shiweiqing saying to Gu Qian, "Whole pot of ribs. Sister-in-law really treats the dog well." I wiped my hands with a towel and replied, "What else can I do? De Huang is so sensible. He knows how to show gratitude after eating." Ignoring Lu Shiweiqing's changed expression, I pushed open the door to my room, picked up the snowflake cream on the table, and applied a thick layer to my hands. There's no way I should age faster than Lu Waking in this lifetime. No one will ever use me as a maid again. Outside the door, I heard Gu Qian comforting Lu Waking and her daughter. He pushed the door open and came in, frowning as he said, "Lin Sui, can you go cook something else? The child is hungry, and I'm hungry, too." I sneered. When the child is hungry, he should look for his mom. It's not like he doesn't have one. Then I added impatiently, "I've got things to do at school. If you're hungry, figure it out yourself." With that, I grabbed a jacket, stepped past him, and walked away, without looking back. I couldn't care less about what they did next. I really did have things to take care of, while handling my own affairs these past couple of days. I've also been taking stock of the assets I currently have on hand. I probably understand the choices Gu Yinyan made in the previous lifetime as well. It's nothing more than that, just the relatively modest supplies following me when I was little, and how to take care of him. He still showed a bit of affection toward me, but in reality, if I think about it carefully, I can tell that every time Gu Qian came back, he acted particularly affectionate. It's just that back then, I had no time to think too much about it. Anyone who has personally cared for a bedridden, elderly person knows how grueling those days can be. And my father, along with my mother, had already consumed the greater part of my youth. I arrived at the place where I had agreed to meet Ning Fei. With the little money I had left, I thought about finding a tutoring job. Coincidentally, one of Ning Fei's cousins was also preparing for the college entrance exam next year, so she asked me to tutor him. He was an educated youth sent down to the countryside, and had just returned to the city not long ago. Looking at the tall, handsome young man beside Ning Fei, I always felt somewhat familiar. Yet, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't remember where I had seen him before. After setting a time with Xia Mingsheng for the tutoring session, I went to the department store again. I still need to return to my hometown to annul my engagement with Gu Qian. Although free love is popular nowadays, it is still different from later generations. Moreover, my engagement with Gu Qian was formalized, with exchange tokens, and based on our birth characters. I have been staying at the Gu family's house for these past few years, and the villagers have long regarded me as part of the Gu family. I don't want to leave any trouble for the future. When I returned to the place where Gu Qian and I lived, Lu Waking and her son had already left. Seeing me return, with bundles large and small, Gu Qian furrowed his brows slightly. "Are you going back home?" he asked. I let out a sound of acknowledgement, pondering whether I should directly bring up the matter of breaking off the engagement with him. Yet, he was the first to speak, saying, "All right, then. Recently, Waking and the others have to change dormitories. It's not easy for her to move back, and forth alone, with a child. I was just about to discuss with you the possibility of vacating your room temporarily for them to live in." I was stunned for a moment and remained silent, even though it was called a discussion. In my past life, despite my disagreement, he still ended up bringing them back in the end. He even threw my belongings all over the floor, and even the heirloom jade pendant left to me by my parents went missing. When I got anxious and questioned him, he even defended the tearful Lu Waking, saying, "Who told you not to put your things away properly?" I distinctly remember putting them neatly in the wardrobe, but even my clothes were scattered all over the floor at that moment. I truly had second thoughts about that marriage, but after meeting Gu's parents, I didn't know how to bring it up. They genuinely want to see me, and Gu Qian living happily ever after. I remained silent, but Gu Qian kept chattering away, and when I heard him mention again the idea of postponing our marriage, I nodded, without the slightest hesitation. "All right." This time, it was Gu Qian who hesitated, as he explained, "That's not what I meant. What I meant was that I wanted to wait until my job at the university was settled before submitting our marriage report to the higher-ups." I just softly uttered, "MHM," then went to boil water to prepare for washing my feet. Gu Qian opened his mouth, then followed me into the kitchen, and said, "What do you think about picking a date in the second half of the year? Or maybe around National Day? That should be." I placed the kettle on the stove, and directly cut him off, saying, "Let's talk about it later." It was the same in my past life. Back then, I was still a bit worried, but having been reborn, I truly don't care at all now, and I even feel a little happy about it. I plan to keep the matter of breaking off the engagement hidden from him, at least until I leave this place for the Northwest. I don't want any more complications. After washing up, I went back to my room to sleep and had a good night's rest. Gu Qian watched the woman, who remained calm throughout, and couldn't help feeling that something was different. An inexplicable sense of panic welled up in his heart. The next morning, I took the earliest bus back to the village. Mr. and Mrs. Gu were delighted to see me, but when they heard I wanted to break off the engagement, they fell into an unusual silence. Gu's father sat off to the side, puffing away at his pipe of dry tobacco, his usually amiable face now flushed with anger as he said to me, "Girl, I know it's that little brat Gu Qian who's been acting up. You wait. I'll go right now and give him a piece of my." I reached out and stopped him. Gu's mother looked at me, wiped a tear from her eye, and came over to pull him back, too, saying, "Forget it, old man. Kids these days aren't like we were back then. Forcing them to marry might end up doing more harm to the girl. You see, they always manage to make my heart soften. But I really don't want to walk the same old path from my previous life again." So, I knelt down, with a thud, tears streaming down my face, and said, "Dad, Mom, even without this marriage, you are still my foster parents. So, please let me go." "Bend over." Mr. Gu called for the village party secretary, and, in his presence, annulled my engagement to Gu Qian. Afterwards, Mrs. Gu took my hand and said, "My dear child, I know you've been wronged." I shook my head. Perhaps Gu Qian and I were wrong from the start, but as I looked at his parents standing before me, some things gradually began to feel less important. After calling off the engagement and returning home, I didn't go back to Gu Qian's place. That was originally a residence assigned by his work unit, and by now Lu Waking and her child had probably already moved in. I found myself a cheaper guest house, which happened to be quite close to Xia Mingqing's home. I tied the jade pendant, which I had recovered against all odds, with a string, and hung it around my neck, constantly reminding myself that everything was different now. In this lifetime, there would be no Gu Qian, and even less so a Gu Yanyan. I will make sure I live a very, very good life. As for how Gu Qian eventually learned about my breaking off the engagement, I wasn't the slightest bit curious. When he hurriedly rushed over, it was already a month later, and I had just boarded the train bound for the Northwest. Ignoring Gu Qian's frustrated, angry face outside the train window, I waved to Xia Mingqing outside the car window, fading into the distance as the train moved on. Communication in this era wasn't as developed as it would be in later years. More than a month after I arrived at Northwestern Polytechnical University, I received a letter from Gu Qian. In the letter, he questioned me about why I called off the engagement, and said that if I replied, he could immediately submit the marriage report. I ignored it. Before long, Gu Qian's second letter arrived as well. This time, he threatened me in the letter, telling me not to regret it if I missed this opportunity. There would be no future for us. I sneered. Nothing could suit me better. I paid no attention to that letter, either. Although the coursework at NPU wasn't overwhelmingly heavy, it was by no means easy, especially given the long gap after my previous life. Every day I was either attending classes or immersing myself in the library or laboratories. I pushed myself to absorb knowledge like a sponge, and it made me feel more fulfilled than I had ever been. In the second year, Xia Mingqing arrived. He studied geological exploration, and had even gone missing during a field assignment. When the news reached the school, I suddenly remembered who he was. After marrying Gu Qian in my previous life, I had always regretted not choosing Northwestern Polytechnical University. While passing by a newsstand, I saw the words Xijian University, and as if guided by some inexplicable impulse, bought a newspaper. That newspaper carried news about Xia Mingqing's exploration team running into danger. My heart was pounding wildly, and, without a moment's hesitation, I went to find the search team. I told them everything I knew, and provided them with the detector I had recently developed. I knew there was something wrong with that magnetic field. Ordinary detectors were completely useless, Afterwards, the members of Xiamingqing's team were very grateful to me, as my detector had made a difference in this timeline. The exploration team, which had sacrificed several key members in the previous life, returned safely and even brought back crucial information. This information played a significant role in advancing our space program, and simultaneously broke through the technological blockade imposed by the West in this area. After graduating from university, I seamlessly applied for graduate studies at my alma mater and began participating in some confidential national projects. I rarely returned home. Gu Qian married Liu Shiwiking 6 months after I left. I heard that someone reported their improper relationship, which caused Liu Shiwiking her job in the cultural troupe and forced Gu Qian to marry her. I didn't care about their affairs. Liu Qian wrote many letters to me afterward, aside from the one telling me about Mr. Gu's illness. I never replied to any of them. When Mr. Gu passed away, I took leave and returned home. By then, they had been married for several years. Liu Shiwiking had even given birth to a son for Gu Qian named Gu Yaozu. Mr. and Mrs. Gu never liked her, but she thought it was because they favored sons over daughters. That's why she went to great lengths to give birth to Gu Yaozu. When I returned home, I also ran into Liu Shiwiking's daughter from her previous marriage, Chen Meinan, who used to carry herself with the same airs as her mother, and at least always kept neat and pretty, now looked disheveled and sullen. I glanced at Gu Yaozu, who was being held in Liu Shiwiking's arms, and immediately understood. Ignoring Liu Shiwiking's subtle provocations and displays, I helped the grief-stricken Mrs. Gu back to her room, fearing she might meet with an accident as she had in my previous life. I stayed by her side almost every moment during this time. Since returning, Gu Qian has been inexplicably attentive toward me. He once wrote to me saying that he would also be transferred, and asked me to wait for him, but not long after, he married Liu Shiwiking in this lifetime. For some unknown reason, he failed to keep climbing the career ladder step by step. I ignored him, pondering the arrangements for Gu's mother afterward. My plan was for her to come with me to the northwest. Over the years, I had always been prepared for the worst. Although Gu's father did not linger in a sickbed for years as he did in the previous life, he ultimately did not survive this age. I was worried that something might happen to Mother Gu, too, so I thought of taking her with me. Over the years, though not mother and daughter by blood, we had become even closer than that. From the room next door, Gu Qian and Liu Shiwiking's argument could be heard. Mother Gu wearily patted my hand and said, "I know your intentions, my child, but I cannot go with you. I cannot bear to leave your father." She added, "Don't worry, Mom can still get around for now, and the neighbors are all familiar faces. I have no intention of moving to some unfamiliar place." I wanted to persuade her further, but she patted my hand again to stop me, saying, "Go and get some sleep." Reluctantly, I left first. The next day, Liu Shiwiking looked at me with utter disdain. I couldn't be bothered to deal with her. After learning of Gu's mother's decision, I went to find an auntie she was usually on good terms with, and asked her to keep an eye on things, to call or write if anything came up, and I'd wire them money every month. Once I had finished taking care of Gu's father's funeral arrangements, I left again. The next time I saw Gu Yunyan was at Gu's mother's funeral. Oh, he was now going by Gu Yaozu. I held the hand of Xiamingqing's daughter, coldly watching the lovers, who once loved each other to death in the past life, and now in this life, the brother and sister, who hate each other to death. It really fits that saying, lovers end up as siblings. Xia Yinyan had never seen such a messy family relationship before, and she stared dumbfounded at the two, who were fighting to the death inside the house. Gu Qian and Liu Shiwiking were also quarreling fiercely. The once elegant noblewoman of a past life has now become a hysterical shrew. With a stern face, I took my daughter's hand and finished handling Madame Gu's funeral affairs. Over the years, I've heard no shortage of stories about Gu Qian and Liu Shiwiking from others. It turns out that the person who reported them all those years ago was none other than Liu Shiwiking herself, because she saw the letter in which Gu Qian said he was going to look for me. She was afraid he might run away, So she staged that whole drama herself after the play. Although she got what she wanted, that letter had clearly become a thorn in her heart. So, fearing she couldn't hold on to Gu Qian, she sabotaged every promotion or transfer he attempted. And that's precisely why Gu Qian has remained stuck in the same place all these years. Later on, she saw those who had once been inferior to them getting promoted, and she began to look down on Gu Qian for his lack of ambition, feeling that he couldn't provide her with a better life. So conflicts between the two kept arising. I have no interest in meddling in their affairs. After handling Gu's mother's funeral, my daughter Xia Yinyan and I prepared to return. All these years, we have been developing in the northwest, and Xia Mingqing's parents had long since moved there. With us, Gu Yaozu came to me the night before we left. He was very emotional and desperately wanted to prove that he was my son. His inexplicable words even made Xia Yinyan doubt his mental state, and she kindly advised him to see a psychiatrist. Furious, he tried to push my daughter, so I coldly drove him away. He still refused to give up, saying, Mom, believe me, I really should be your son. It's just that in this life, I don't know how I ended up being reincarnated into Lu Shiwiking's womb. And that cheap woman, Chen Meinan, she's just like her mother, a fickle and promiscuous in my previous life. I pushed Xia Yinyan's head back inside and closed the door, giving him a cold stare. Xia Yinyan had no idea what he was talking about, but I understood. I said coldly, weren't you especially fond of that mother, Lu Shiwiking? Now, your mother-in-law has become your biological mother. What could possibly be displeasing about that? Gu Yinyan stared at me wide-eyed. You. And then his face turned deathly pale. How could I not recognize Gu Yaozu as Gu Yinyan, even though he wasn't born from my womb in this life? After all, in the previous life, I was the one who raised him single-handedly. At first, I didn't believe such a coincidence could exist. But these past days, his deliberate attentiveness towards me and his inexplicable jealousy towards Xia Yinyan have given me a few more clues to ponder. So how did you eventually confirm it later? I like the taste of ginger in dishes, but I don't want to actually bite into any ginger. So I always pick it out first. Yet, even Gu Qian, who lived with me for several years, never noticed this habit. It was Gu Yaozu, who had only seen me a few times after returning, who understood it perfectly. When he eagerly placed a plate of ginger-free dishes in front of me, I knew, even though I didn't marry Gu Qian in this lifetime, he still came. Even the mole on the web between his thumb and index finger was exactly the same as in the previous life. I found it somewhat amusing, but didn't expose him, merely watched his performance. With a cold eye, in the previous life, he had been determined to claim Lu Shiwiking as his mother. But now that he truly had her as his mother in this life, he found himself dissatisfied in all sorts of ways. Instead, he began to yearn for me, his so-called mother. I listened indifferently to his various confessions, thinking to myself how truly alike this father and son were, both absolute egoists, had actually figured it out in my past life. Did Gu Qian really love Lu Shiwiking so much? I doubt it. He simply couldn't let go of me as his free housemate, nor could he part with his romantic dalliances. I might have truly had feelings for him at first, but later on, what remained was likely just gratitude toward Father Gu and Mother Gu, and consideration for Gu Yanyan. Of course, there was also a great deal of reluctance to accept defeat, but sunk costs should not factor into major decisions, and there's more than one way to repay kindness. The tragedy of my past life also stemmed from my own stubborn refusal to move forward. I quietly slipped away with Xia Yinyan without bidding farewell to anyone. In this lifetime, I did not marry Gu Qian as father, and Mother Gu had hoped. Yet in this life, I also ensured that Father and Mother Gu were well cared for. Neither of them suffered through lingering illnesses for many years before passing in this lifetime. Thanks to my deliberate protection, they at least departed with dignity. Gu Yaozu later wrote many more letters to me, none of which I bothered with, given the nature of my work. It was also impossible for him to find me. I don't care how he is now. Everything from my past life has long since faded into a golden dream. Now, the dream has long since ended, It was several years later, when news of Gu Qian and his son reached my ears again. Xia's parents, growing older, also began to yearn for their hometown. During the spring festival, we took advantage of the holiday and returned home together. I learned about Gu Yaozu's affairs from an old auntie in the village. When I visited the graves of Gu's parents, he accidentally killed his wife from a previous life, Gu Manin in this life, who was his half-sister by the same mother. After he was sentenced, whether due to shock or not, Gu Qian suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and became paralyzed. When I went to see Gu Qian, I witnessed Lu Xueqing slapping him, while cursing him for ruining her entire life. I blinked, looking at their graying hair, wondering if this could be considered a kind of fulfillment. I put down the gift and turned to leave. Great. Let's not hear any more talk about me not helping those two lovebirds through their troubles. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe. I died on the asphalt, blood mingling with the rain, clutching the ID my sister claimed she desperately needed. As my vision faded, I saw her smiling on live television, holding that exact same ID. Now, I'm standing at the exam gates again. This time, I'm not running. The first thing that hit me was the smell of cheap vanilla perfume and the deafening roar of 100 anxious high school seniors. I gasped, my hands flying to my chest. My fingers scrabbled against the crisp cotton of my uniform blouse, expecting to find shattered ribs and a jagged steering column protruding from my sternum. Instead, I felt only the frantic, rapid flutter of my own heart. I blinked against the harsh morning sunlight, the phantom scent of gasoline and copper blood abruptly replaced by the scent of freshly cut grass and anxious sweat. Chloe, are you even listening to me? A sharp tug on my forearm snapped my focus to the present. Standing in front of me was Bianca, my sweet adopted sister, the golden child of the Hastings family. She was looking at me with wide, panicked blue eyes, her bottom lip trembling in that practiced way that usually got her everything she wanted from our parents. Arthur and Evelyn. We were standing in front of the wrought iron gates of the Regional Testing Center at Westbridge Academy. It was May 14th, the morning of the National Merit Scholarship qualifying exams, the sole metric that would determine our Ivy League admissions. I said, Bianca hissed, her voice dropping a register so only I could hear the venom beneath the panic. I forgot my ID on the kitchen island. You have to go back and get it. A wave of pure, paralyzing nausea washed over me. I wasn't dead. I was back. Back in the exact moment that had ruined and ultimately ended my life. In my previous life, those exact words had sent me into a blind panic for her sake. I had loved Bianca when our parents adopted her at age 10. I had sworn to be the best older sister in the world. So, when she cried at the exam gates, I hadn't hesitated. I handed her my backpack, turned around, and sprinted the 2 miles back to our suburban home. I grabbed her ID from the counter, hopped into my beat-up Honda Civic to save time, and sped back. I never made it. A drunk driver in a Ford F-150, a man named Trevor Walsh, as the police report would later state, blew a red light at the intersection of Maple and 5th. He T-boned my driver's side at 60 miles per hour. I spent the next 3 days in the ICU at St. Jude's Medical Center. My spine was severed at the L4 vertebra. My right lung was collapsed. I lay in a hospital bed, paralyzed from the waist down, listening to the steady beep of the heart monitor. And the worst part, Bianca and my parents didn't even visit me until the second day. When they finally did, Bianca had bounded into the room, tears of joy in her eyes, waving her exam completion certificate. I aced it. Chloe, she had chirped, standing over my broken body. And you'll never guess what? I found my ID in my blazer pocket right after you left. It was there the whole time. Isn't that silly? It's a shame you missed your exam. But you always said you'd be happy going to community college anyway. It wasn't silly. It was premeditated murder of my future. Bianca knew there was only one spot left in the district's early admission quota for Princeton. And we were tied for it. She sent me into traffic to eliminate her only competition. Chloe. Bianca snapped her fingers in front of my face, pulling me back to the present. The hands of a giant clock on the brick wall of Westbridge Academy read 7:45 a.m. The doors would lock at 8 a.m. sharp. Stop spacing out. Run. If you sprint, you can make it back before the doors close. I'll stall the proctors. I stared at her. I looked at her perfectly curled blonde hair, her neatly pressed blazer, and the subtle triumphant gleam in her eyes that I had been too blind to see in my past life. No, I said. My voice was raspy, dry as dust. Bianca blinked, her practiced tears halting for a fraction of a second. What? I said no. Bianca. I repeated, my voice growing stronger, colder. I'm not going back for your ID. Her face twisted in genuine confusion before quickly morphing back into a mask of desperate victimhood. She looked around, making sure the gathering crowd of students and parents could see her distress. Chloe, please, you know how important this is to me. Mom and Dad will kill me if I can't take this test. My entire future is on the line. And mine isn't, I asked, taking a step closer to her. I didn't raise my voice, but the icy calm in my tone made her instinctively step back. It's a 20-minute round trip on foot. Bianca, the doors close in 15 minutes. If I go back, I miss my exam. Why should my future be sacrificed for your supposed mistake? Because you're smart, she wailed, her voice carrying over the courtyard. Several heads turned our way. I saw Mrs. Albright, the notoriously strict head proctor, watching us from the top of the stairs. You don't need the scholarship as much as I do. You can just retake it in the fall. Please, Chloe, don't do this to me. Whispers broke out around us. Wow. Her sister won't even help her out? That's Chloe Hastings. Right. She's a straight-A student. She could afford to miss one exam. How selfish can you be? The poor girl is hyperventilating. In my past life, those whispers would have crushed me. The need to be the good sister, the compliant daughter, had been ingrained in me by parents who constantly told me to accommodate the trauma of Bianca's early childhood. But standing here now, feeling the phantom ache of a shattered spine, those whispers meant nothing. If it's so important, I said, my voice cutting through the murmurs like a scalpel. Why did you forget it? We checked our bags together at 6 o'clock this morning. I specifically saw you put your ID in the inner left pocket of your blazer. Bianca flinched. The color drained from her face, leaving her pale beneath her carefully applied blush. I took it out. I put it on the kitchen island when I was grabbing a granola bar. I swear. Then I guess you're not taking the exam. I said simply. I adjusted the straps of my backpack and turned away from her, facing the imposing double doors of the testing center. Chloe Hastings, you get back here. Bianca shrieked, grabbing the back of my jacket, her nails dug into my shoulder, the facade of the helpless victim cracking to reveal the entitled brat beneath. Mom and Dad are going to disown you for this. They told you to look out for me. I slowly turned my head, looking at the hand gripping my jacket, then up to her furious eyes. Let go of me, Bianca, I whispered, stepping entirely into her personal space. Before I make you regret it. The standoff at the gate was drawing a serious crowd. The clock ticked down. 7:50 a.m., 10 minutes until the doors locked. What is going on here? The authoritative voice belonged to Principal Gregory Higgins, who was marching down the concrete steps accompanied by Officer Davis, the school's resource officer. Principal Higgins looked highly displeased. This exam was a reflection on his school's academic standing, and a public screaming match was not the optics he wanted. Bianca immediately released my jacket and threw herself toward the principal, sobbing hysterically. Principal Higgins, it's a disaster. I left my identification at home, and my sister refuses to go back and get it for me. She wants me to fail. Principal Higgins sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Miss Hastings, you know the College Board rules. No government-issued ID. No entry. No exceptions. Where are your parents? They're out of town on a business trip in Chicago. I stated calmly, stepping forward. They left last night. This was another crucial detail. Bianca had planned this for a day when our parents couldn't intervene or drive the ID over themselves. It had to be me. Well, Chloe. Higgins looked at me, a hint of judgment in his eyes. If you run, you might just make it. With all due respect, Mr. Higgins, I said, my voice ringing out clearly in the quiet courtyard. It is a physical impossibility to run 2 miles in 10 minutes without a vehicle. If I leave now, neither of us takes the exam. Furthermore, I am not responsible for my sister's irresponsibility. I turned to Officer Davis. He was a seasoned cop, a man who had dealt with enough teenage drama to recognize a theatrical performance when he saw one. Officer Davis, I said respectfully, my sister has been under a lot of stress lately. She suffers from severe test anxiety. Sometimes it causes her to become extremely forgetful and irrational. Bianca glared at me, her tears miraculously pausing. What are you doing? She hissed. I'm just worried about you. Bianca, I said, plastering on a look of deep sisterly concern. I raised my voice so the entire crowd could hear. In fact, I'm almost certain I saw you put it in your blazer this morning. With your anxiety, you might have just misplaced it in a panic. It wouldn't be the first time. I turned back to the officer. Officer, could you please have a female staff member check her pockets? Or perhaps her backpack? I'd hate for her to miss her entire future just because she's too panicked to check her own person. Bianca's face turned ash white. Pure. Unadulterated terror flashed in her eyes. The ID was taped to the inside lining of her blazer, a trick she had bragged about to my paralyzed body in the hospital. If they searched her, they would find it. They would realize she had staged this entire meltdown to force me to leave. No! Bianca shouted, stepping back and clutching her blazer tightly around her chest. Don't touch me! Nobody is searching me! The crowd's sympathy, which had been squarely on Bianca's side just moments before, shifted instantly. Her reaction was too violent, too defensive. Even Principal Higgins frowned, his administrative radar pinging. Bianca, Higgins said slowly, if there's a chance you have it on you, you need to check. Empty your pockets. I told you I left it at home, she screamed, her voice cracking. She's lying. Chloe is just trying to humiliate me. If you don't have it, I pointed out smoothly, then a quick check won't hurt. Mrs. Albright is right there. It will take 10 seconds. The clock hit 7:55 a.m. 5 minutes. Mrs. Albright, a woman who possessed the warmth of a frozen lake, walked down the steps. Miss Hastings, empty your pockets and open your bag. Now, or I will have you removed from the premises for causing a public disturbance. Bianca was trapped. I watched the gears turning in her head, the desperate calculations of a narcissist caught in a corner. Option A, let Mrs. Albright search her, find the ID taped inside her jacket, and be exposed as a psychotic manipulator in front of her friends, her principal, and the police. Option B, refuse the search, maintain the lie, but be barred from the exam, destroying her chances at the Ivy League she so desperately coveted. I knew my sister. I knew her ambition outstripped her pride. Her breathing became ragged. She looked at me, and for a fleeting second the mask dropped entirely. She shot me a look of such pure, venomous hatred that it would have frozen my blood in my past life. Now, it just made me want to smile. Fine, Bianca shrieked, dramatically throwing her hands up. Fine, I'll check again. She practically ripped her backpack off her shoulders, unzipping it with aggressive force. She rummaged around blindly for a few seconds, panting heavily. It's not here. See, check your blazer. Bianca. I reminded her gently. The inner left pocket. She froze. She slowly reached a trembling hand into her blazer. I watched her fingers dig into the lining, ripping the small piece of double-sided tape she had used to secure it. With a theatrical gasp, she pulled her hand out. Between her manicured fingers rested her crisp plastic state ID card. A collective gasp echoed through the courtyard. Oh my God! Bianca cried out, her voice pitching into a pathetic warbling register. It slipped through a hole in the lining. I didn't even feel it. Oh, Chloe, you were right. I'm so stupid. Nobody bought it. The silence in the courtyard was deafening. The realization dawned on the faces of our peers. They had all heard her fiercely insist it was on the kitchen island. They had all seen her aggressively refuse a simple search. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a deliberate, calculated performance. Principal Higgins looked at her with utter disgust. Get inside, Bianca, now, and we will be having a serious discussion about your conduct after the examination. Bianca didn't look at me, her face burning crimson with humiliation. She lowered her head and practically sprinted up the stairs, pushing past Mrs. Albright and disappearing into the testing center. "You handled that very calmly, Chloe," Officer Davis noted, giving me a respectful nod. "I know my sister," I replied quietly. The clock struck 7:58 a.m. 2 minutes to spare. I took a deep breath, the crisp morning air filling my perfectly intact, unpunctured lungs. I adjusted my backpack and walked up the stairs. My legs moved smoothly, my spine strong and unbroken. Every step was a victory. Every breath was a second chance. I walked into the examination hall, took my assigned seat, and picked up my number 2 pencil. I had survived the morning. Now, it was time to ace the exam and prepare for the war that would inevitably begin when our parents got home. 4 hours later, my number 2 pencil tapped softly against the oak desk. I had just filled in the final bubble of the calculus section, and a profound sense of peace washed over me. Dying on cold asphalt gives you a terrifyingly sharp perspective on life. Suddenly, advanced derivatives and reading comprehension questions felt entirely trivial compared to the memory of a collapsing lung. I handed my booklet to Mrs. Albright, who offered a rare stiff nod of approval, and walked out of the double doors of Westbridge Academy. The afternoon sun felt like a physical blessing on my skin. My legs moved with strong, deliberate strides. I was alive, I was whole, and I knew exactly what was waiting for me at home. By the time I unlocked the front door of our sprawling suburban house, the driveway already held Arthur's silver Mercedes. My parents had returned early from Chicago. The air conditioning inside the foyer hit me like a wall of ice, but it was nothing compared to the absolute zero temperature radiating from the living room. I dropped my keys onto the console table. The sharp clatter echoed in the silent house. "In here, Chloe, right now." The voice belonged to Arthur Hastings. He wasn't yelling, which was always worse. His quiet, controlled tone was the one he used before firing employees or dismantling competitors in his corporate mergers. I walked into the sunken living room, my posture straight. Arthur stood by the unlit fireplace, his jaw clenched so tightly a vein throbbed at his temple. Evelyn, my mother, sat perched on the edge of the white leather sofa, her face a mask of furious disappointment, and curled into a tight, dramatic ball on the matching love seat. Clutching a tissue was Bianca. Her eyes were red and puffy, the picture of a shattered, traumatized victim. "Care to explain why I received a phone call from Principal Gregory Higgins while I was boarding my flight?" Arthur demanded, skipping any pretense of a greeting. "He informed me that my daughters caused a public spectacle, requiring police intervention. All because you refused to help your sister in a moment of crisis. I refused to leave the testing center 10 minutes before the doors locked." I corrected smoothly, dropping my backpack onto an armchair. If I had gone back, I would have missed the most important exam of my academic career, an exam I studied 3 years for. "She's lying," Bianca wailed, her voice muffled by the tissue. "She had plenty of time. She just wanted me to fail. Mom, she humiliated me in front of everyone. She told Officer Davis to search me like I was a common criminal. Because you were lying, Bianca," I stated, turning my gaze to her. "You had your ID taped inside your blazer the entire time. You threw a hysterical fit to manipulate me into leaving. I simply called your bluff." "Enough," Evelyn snapped, standing up. Her heels clicked sharply against the hardwood. "Chloe, you have always been jealous of Bianca. We adopted her to give her a better life. And instead of welcoming her, you've done nothing but make her feel inadequate. She has severe test anxiety. She forgot the ID was in her pocket because she was having a panic attack. And you used that vulnerability to try and destroy her reputation." I stared at the woman who had given birth to me. In my past life, this speech would have broken me. I would have dropped to my knees, apologizing, begging for her affection, promising to do whatever it took to make it right. But death is an excellent cure for a desperate need for validation. She wasn't having a panic attack, I said, my voice completely devoid of emotion. She was executing a calculated plan to eliminate her competition for the Princeton early admission slot. "How dare you speak about your sister that way?" Arthur roared, finally losing his corporate composure. He took a menacing step forward. "You are completely out of control. Chloe, your selfishness is astounding. Because of her little stunt today, Bianca was so distressed she couldn't focus on her exam. She barely finished the math section. You have ruined her chances at an Ivy League education. And what about my chances? I asked quietly. You don't need Princeton. Evelyn hissed, her true colors flashing brightly. You can get a full ride to a state school with your grades. Bianca needs the prestige of that institution for her future. As your parents, we expect you to look out for your family first. Which brings us to your punishment. Arthur interrupted, crossing his arms. He walked over to his mahogany desk in the corner and picked up a manila folder. He tossed it onto the glass coffee table. Open it. I looked down. Inside the folder was a formal, typed letter addressed to the College Board and the Princeton admissions office. It stated that I, Chloe Hastings, was formally withdrawing my application for early admission due to personal family health reasons, effectively taking myself out of the running and leaving the district's sole quota spot wide open for Bianca. Sign it, Arthur commanded. You will withdraw your application. Furthermore, you will transfer the $10,000 in your personal savings account, the money you earn tutoring, into Bianca's account to compensate her for the emotional distress you caused her today. Bianca peeked out from behind her tissue, a smug, venomous smile playing on her lips. She thought she had won. She thought the power dynamic was exactly as it had always been. And if I refuse? I asked, looking dead into Arthur's eyes. If you refuse, Evelyn said, her voice dripping with ice, we will cut off your college fund entirely. We will not pay a single cent toward your education, state school or otherwise. You can pack your bags and move out the minute you turn 18 next month. You will have nothing. The silence in the living room was absolute. They waited for my tears. They waited for my submission. Instead, I started to laugh. It wasn't a hysterical laugh, but a low, genuine chuckle that seemed to unnerve Arthur. I slowly unzipped the front pocket of my backpack, the one I had refused to hand over to Bianca at the gates. It's funny you mentioned cutting me off financially, Mother, I said, pulling out a thick, leather-bound folder of my own. I tossed it onto the glass table, right on top of their pathetic withdrawal letter. Because I spent my lunch break yesterday at the offices of Caldwell & Associates. Arthur froze. Richard Caldwell was one of the most ruthless and respected estate attorneys in the state. What were you doing at a law firm? Arthur demanded, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. Getting ahead of the narrative, I replied, sitting down casually in the armchair. I crossed my legs, enjoying the sudden shift in the room's atmosphere. You see, while I was cleaning out the attic last month, I found an old safety deposit box key. It belonged to my biological grandmother, Margaret Kensington, the one who supposedly died penniless. Evelyn's face drained of all color. She reached out and gripped the back of the sofa to steady herself. Chloe, what have you done? I did some reading, I said lightly, flipping open the leather folder. According to these verified bank statements and trust documents, Grandmother Margaret didn't die penniless. She left a trust fund currently valued at $4.2 million. A trust fund that was completely restricted, designated solely for her biological granddaughter, Chloe Hastings. Upon her 18th birthday, Bianca dropped her tissue, her jaw practically hitting the floor. For million, however, I continued, my voice hardening into steel. I also found the withdrawal ledgers. It seems you two have been fraudulently skimming off the interest of that trust for the past 10 years using forged power of attorney documents. That's how you bought this house, Arthur. That's how you bought the silver Mercedes. You didn't earn it. You stole it from a child. You little brat. Arthur lunged forward, his face purple with rage, but I held up a single finger, stopping him in his tracks. If you touch me, or if you even raise your voice again, my attorney, Mr. Caldwell, will immediately forward these documents to the district attorney for felony embezzlement and wire fraud. You will lose your company, your house, and you will both go to federal prison. The silence returned, but this time it was heavy with absolute terror. Arthur stumbled backward, collapsing into a chair. Evelyn began to silently weep, realizing her entire life of luxury was built on a trapdoor I had just kicked open. But that's not even the best part, I said, turning my gaze to Bianca, whose eyes were wide with panic. Do you want to tell her, Evelyn? Or should I? Chloe, please, Evelyn begged, her voice trembling. Don't tell me what, Bianca demanded, looking frantically between me and our mother. Tell me what, Bianca, I said, relishing every single syllable. You aren't adopted. You never were. Bianca blinked, shaking her head. That's crazy. Of course I am. Evelyn had an affair 13 years ago with Arthur's old business partner, Nathaniel Cross, I revealed, tossing a certified DNA test onto the table. When she got pregnant, Arthur couldn't handle the public scandal of a divorce. So, they sent Evelyn away to a retreat and brought you back claiming you were a tragic adoption case from a distant relative. The reason they've always favored you, Bianca, isn't because you're a poor orphan. It's because Evelyn is drowning in maternal guilt and Arthur is drowning in humiliation. Bianca let out a breathless shriek, burying her face in her hands. The pristine, perfect image of the Hastings family shattered into a million irreparable pieces right in front of me. Here is what is going to happen, I said, standing up. I was no longer the obedient daughter. I was the architect of my own destiny. I am not signing your withdrawal letter. I am going to Princeton. Furthermore, Mr. Caldwell is formally filing for my emancipation tomorrow morning, and he is freezing all of your assets until the $4 million you stole from my trust is fully audited and returned to me. Arthur buried his face in his hands. A broken man. You can keep the house for now, I said, walking toward the front door. Consider it my final act of charity to a family that sent me into traffic to die. They didn't understand that last sentence, but it didn't matter. I grabbed my keys, slung my backpack over my shoulder, and walked out into the bright afternoon sun. I had refused to go back to the past, and by doing so, I had finally secured my future. Thank you for watching the story of rebirth and ultimate justice. If you love seeing Chloe stand up to her toxic family and take back her destiny, hit that like button and share this video with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you never miss another dramatic true life story. What would you have done? Let us know in the comments. The second story, death came wrapped in disgrace, engineered by a so-called sister. But suddenly, I snapped wide open, lungs filled with air. The universe had rewound to the exact second everything shattered. The traitorous best friend was preparing to publicly confess to the school sociopath. This time, only a dark smile surfaced. The first thing that hit me was the suffocating smell of floor wax, cheap aerosol deodorant, and the undeniable humidity of 2,000 teenagers crammed into a poorly ventilated gymnasium. My lungs expanded, pulling in a sharp, desperate breath. I blinked, my vision swimming through a blur of bright fluorescent lights and a sea of maroon and gold spirit wear. The low, deafening hum of overlapping conversations pounded against my eardrums. My hands, which moments ago had been trembling uncontrollably on a cold hospital bed, were now resting on the rough wooden grain of the gymnasium bleachers. I looked down at my fingers. They were unscarred. My nails were painted a chipped, vibrant teal color I hadn't worn since I was 17. Amelia, are you even listening to me? The voice sliced through the ambient noise like a serrated blade. I froze. Slowly, agonizingly. I turned my head to the left. There she was, Madison Clare. She looked exactly as she had in my nightmares. Golden blonde hair perfectly curled, doe eyes widened in feigned innocence, and that persistent, slightly entitled pout resting on her lips. She was wearing that ridiculous denim jacket she thought made her look edgy. I said, Madison hissed, leaning in close so her vanilla perfume coated the back of my throat. I'm going to do it right after Principal Harrison finishes talking about the stupid car wash. I'm going to walk down there, take the microphone, and tell Damien everything. He needs to know how I feel. A cold electric shock traveled down my spine. The date, it was May 14th, junior year. The Spring Spirit Assembly. I was dead. I knew I was dead. The memories of my previous life crashed into me with the force of a freight train. In that past life, when Madison whispered those exact words to me, I had panicked. I knew Damien Croft was dangerous. He wasn't just a school bully in the cinematic sense. He was a wealthy, untouchable sociopath who derived genuine pleasure from systematically destroying people. He ran the social hierarchy of Crestview high with absolute, terrifying authority. Madison, in her naive, romance novelattle brain, believed she could be the good girl who saved the broken bad boy. In my first life, I had begged her not to do it, when she stood up anyway and began marching toward the center of the gym floor. I had chased after her. I tackled her away from the microphone stand, knocking it over with a deafening screech of feedback. I took the blame. I told the school I tripped, that I was having a panic attack, anything to keep her from making a fool of herself. And my reward? Damien Croft turned his terrifying gaze on me. He decided my interference had ruined his assembly. For the next year, he made my life a living hell. The rumors, the cyberbullying, the framed academic cheating scandal that cost me my college scholarship, and Madison, the girl I had thrown myself on a grenade to protect. She joined him. When the pressure got too high, she claimed I was obsessed with her, that I was unhinged. She threw me to the wolves to secure her own social standing, laughing with Damien's inner circle while I was driven out of school, spiraling into a depression that eventually ended my life. Amelia, Madison snapped her fingers in front of my face, pulling me back to the deafening reality of the gym. You're zoning out. Did you hear me? I'm going to declare my love. He's going to see that I'm the only one who truly understands the pain he hides. I stared at her. The sheer blinding audacity of her delusion was almost staggering. I looked past her, down to the front row of the bleachers where the elite sat. Damien Croft was slouched arrogantly against the wooden planks, dressed in a black bomber jacket, whispering something to Tyler Brooks that made Tyler bark with cruel laughter. Damien's dark hair fell over his eyes, and even from here, I could see the cold, dead, shark-like emptiness in his expression. In my chest, the panic of the past life evaporated, replaced by a dark, blooming warmth. The universe had rewound the clock. I wasn't just alive. I was armed with the most dangerous weapon in existence. Foresight. I heard you, Maddie, I said, my voice eerily calm. It didn't even shake. Madison frowned, clearly expecting the frantic pushback I had given her the first time. And aren't you going to tell me it's crazy? Aren't you going to tell me I shouldn't do it? I leaned back, resting my elbows on the bleacher behind me. Crossing my ankles, I looked her dead in the eyes and let a soft, encouraging smile stretch across my face. No, I whispered. I think it's incredibly brave. You're right, Madison. Damien, Clear's throat, is just misunderstood. If you don't take this chance, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. You should go down there and bare your soul. Don't hold anything back. Her eyes lit up with a sickening mix of triumph and vanity. I knew it. I knew you'd understand. You're the best. Amelia, watch this. My life is about to start. Oh, it's about to start. All right. I thought, my smile widening into something that felt entirely foreign on my face. But it's going to be a tragedy. Not a rom-com. Down on the gym floor, Principal Harrison, a balding, exhausted man who had given up on controlling the student body a decade ago, tapped the microphone. All right, settle down. Everyone, settle down. His voice boomed over the PA system, echoing off the cinder block walls. Before we dismiss you to fourth period, I just want to remind the student council about the this is it. Madison breathed. She stood up, smoothing down her skirt. I didn't reach out. I didn't grab her wrist. I just watched her go. Madison's descent down the wooden bleachers seemed to happen in agonizingly slow motion. With every step she took, the protective bubble I had spent my entire previous life building around her chipped away. I sat perfectly still, my hands folded neatly in my lap, observing the scene like a scientist watching a rat navigate a maze laced with poison. The gym was a massive echoing chamber. Over 2,000 students, faculty, and staff were present. The air was thick with anticipation of the bell ringing. No one was paying attention to the blonde girl making her way to the center of the basketball court. Not yet. Excuse me, Principal Harrison. Madison's voice was polite but forceful as she stepped onto the polished hardwood. Mr. Harrison stopped mid-sentence, looking over his reading glasses in sheer bewilderment. Madison. Miss Claire, what are you doing out of your seat? The assembly isn't quite over. I know, Madison said, stepping up to the microphone stand. She practically shoved the bewildered principal aside. But I have an announcement that can't wait. It's about truth and courage. The gymnasium, which had been a low roar of side conversations, suddenly plummeted into a deadly electrified silence. 2,000 heads snapped toward the center of the court. I could feel the collective intake of breath. This wasn't scripted. This was raw. Madison grabbed the microphone off the stand. The feedback whined sharply, making a few freshmen in the front row wince. She stood tall, her chest puffed out, scanning the bleachers until her eyes locked onto the front row of the senior section. She locked eyes with Damien Croft. Damien stopped chewing his gum. He leaned forward slightly, his dark, calculating eyes narrowing. Beside him, Tyler Brooks and Noah Evans exchanged bewildered smirks. Damien, Madison's voice boomed through the speakers, trembling with forced emotional gravity. She was projecting, practically acting out a scene she had rehearsed in her bathroom mirror 1,000 times. For 2 years, I've watched you. I've seen the way people look at you. They see someone intimidating. They see someone cold. But I know the truth. I see the boy who sits by the oak tree reading Hemingway. I see the pain you try to hide behind your sarcasm, and you're your edge. A collective gasp rippled through the student body. Somewhere in the sophomore section, someone let out a low mocking whistle. I pressed my hand against my mouth, not in shock, but to hide the feral grin that was threatening to split my face in half. You push people away because you're terrified of letting them in. Madison continued, taking a step closer to the senior bleachers, her voice rising in a dramatic crescendo. But you don't have to be alone anymore. Damien, I'm right here. I have always been here. I love you. Damien Croft. I love the real you. She lowered the microphone. The silence that followed was absolute. It was a heavy, suffocating vacuum. You could have heard a pin drop on the hardwood floor. Madison stood there breathing heavily, a triumphant glowing smile on her face. She looked like she was waiting for the swelling orchestral music to hit, waiting for Damien to stand up, overcome with emotion, and run across the gym to pull her into a passionate embrace. Damien slowly stood up. He didn't run. He didn't look overcome with emotion. He looked like a predator who just had a wounded bird voluntarily walk into his cage. He walked down the 3 steps to the gym floor, his hands casually shoved into the pockets of his dark jeans. The entire school held its breath. Even the teachers were too paralyzed by the sheer awkwardness to intervene. Damien stopped about 5 feet away from Madison. Madison's smile wavered, just for a fraction of a second as she registered the absolute frost in his eyes. You love me, Damien stated. He didn't have a microphone, but in the dead silence of the gym, his voice carried effortlessly. It was smooth, detached, and dripping with venom. Yes, clear as throat, Madison breathed, taking a hopeful step forward. Damien tilted his head, feigning confusion. That's fascinating. Tell me, Madison, is that why you sent me those 53 direct messages over the last 3 months? The ones I left on read. Madison's face drained of color so fast she looked like a corpse. I just Damien continued, his voice rising slightly, ensuring the upper bleachers could hear every syllable. Is it because you think you're in some cheap young adult novel? Do you honestly think I give a single damn about you? I don't read Hemingway under the oak tree because I'm tortured. Madison, I read it because I have AP Lit 4th period and I forgot to do the assignment. Laughter erupted from Tyler and Noah, instantly followed by a wave of cruel, rolling laughter from the entire senior section. It spread like wildfire. You don't know me. Damien stepped closer, lowering his voice into a vicious sneer that only the first few rows could hear. But the microphones picked up just enough of the hiss. You are an embarrassing, pathetic little girl desperate for attention. You are nothing to me. You will never be anything to me. Do not ever speak my name again. The laughter from the crowd crescendoed into howling and jeering. People were pointing. Some students pulled out their phones, snapping photos and recording videos of the destruction. Madison stumbled backward. The microphone slipped from her hand, hitting the floor with a loud, violent T-ant that sent a screech of feedback through the speakers. Her hands flew to her face. The triumphant heroine was gone, replaced by a shattered, humiliated reality. She spun around frantically, scanning the crowd. Her eyes darted up the bleachers, searching desperately. She was looking for me. In my past life, this was the moment I would have run down there. I would have wrapped my arms around her, shielded her from the laughing faces, and practically dragged her out of the gym, taking the heat and the jeers right alongside her. Our eyes met across the massive gymnasium. I saw the silent, desperate plea in her tear-filled gaze. "Amelia, help me. Save me." I sat perfectly still. I didn't move a muscle. I just looked back at her with blank, unreadable eyes. Madison's jaw dropped. The betrayal flashed across her face, hot and immediate. For a second, she looked more shocked by my inaction than by Damien's rejection. When she realized I wasn't coming, a sob ripped from her throat. She turned and sprinted out of the gymnasium, bursting through the double doors and disappearing into the hallway. The bell rang abruptly, shattering the tension. The assembly dissolved into absolute chaos as students flooded the floor. Buzzing like a disturbed hornet's nest, gossip was already spreading. Videos were already being uploaded. I stood up slowly, slinging my backpack over my shoulder. I felt lighter than I had in years. The crushing weight of my past life's trauma was gone, replaced by a thrilling, terrifying sense of control. As I walked down the bleachers, I passed by the spot where Damien and his friends were still standing. Tyler Brooks bumped my shoulder intentionally as he walked past. "Hey, your pet freak show just ran out crying. Better go fetch her." In the past, I would have kept my head down. Today, I stopped. I turned and looked Tyler dead in the eye, then shifted my gaze to Damien. Damien raised an eyebrow, daring me to speak. "She's not a pet," I said, my voice eerily calm. "And she made her own bed. I'm just here for the show." Boss." Damien's smirk faltered for a fraction of a second, replaced by a flicker of genuine curiosity. Before he could respond, I turned on my heel and walked out of the gym, heading straight for the girls' bathroom, where I knew a reckoning was waiting. The game had just begun, and this time I held all the cards. The girls' bathroom on the second floor always smelled overwhelmingly of cherry blossom soap and stale anxiety. When I pushed open the heavy wooden door, the sound of violent, theatrical sobbing bounced off the cracked subway tiles. Madison was slumped against the sinks, her perfect blonde curls plastered to her tear-streaked cheeks, mascara painted dark, jagged lines down her face. Sarah Jenkins, one of the junior varsity cheerleaders who practically worships the ground Madison walked on, was awkwardly patting her shoulder. When the door clicked shut behind me, Madison's head snapped up. The sorrow in her eyes vanished instantly, replaced by a venomous white-hot fury. "Get out!" she screamed, her voice cracking, echoing shrilly in the confined space. Sarah took a nervous step back. I didn't flinch. I just walked over to the paper towel dispenser, pulled out a rough brown sheet, and slowly ran it under the cold water of the adjacent sink. "You did this," Madison hissed, pushing herself off the porcelain counter. She pointed a trembling, manicured finger at my chest. "You knew he was going to humiliate me. You knew it, and you just sat there. You wanted this to happen." I wrung out the wet paper towel, the water dripping rhythmically into the basin. "I didn't force you to stand up in front of 2,000 people. Madison, I didn't write that pathetic, delusional speech for you. You asked for my opinion, and I told you to follow your heart. You were supposed to stop me," she shrieked, slamming her palms against the sink. "You are my best friend. Amelia, you're supposed to protect me from myself. When I said I was going to do it, you were supposed to drag me out of that gym." The sheer, unapologetic narcissism of her statement was breathtaking. In my past life, that exact logic had destroyed me. I had believed her. I had believed it was my fundamental duty to be her collateral damage. I turned to face her, leaning casually against the damp counter. "I'm your friend, Madison, not your bodyguard, and I'm certainly not your human shield. You wanted the spotlight. You wanted the drama. You wanted to be the tragic heroine who tames the school's sociopath. Well, congratulations. You got the spotlight. It just happened to be a spotlight on your own delusion." Sarah gasped, clapping a hand over her mouth. Madison looked like I had just slapped her across the face with a brick. Her jaw opened and closed silently, struggling to comprehend this sudden, radical shift in my personality. The quiet, compliant Amelia was gone. "You're a monster," Madison finally whispered, her voice shaking with genuine disbelief. Damien was right. I am humiliated. My life is over. Everyone is laughing at me. And it's your fault. I will make sure everyone knows what a terrible, jealous person you are. A cold, humorless laugh escaped my lips. Oh, Maddie, you don't have the social capital to destroy anyone right now. You just became the punchline of Crestview High. If you try to drag my name into your mess, I promise you I will not quietly take the fall. Wipe your face. You look pathetic. I tossed the damn paper towel into the trash can and walked out, leaving her staring after me in horrified silence. The adrenaline was pumping through my veins like ice water. The halls were mostly empty, the student body already shuffling into fourth period classrooms. I took a detour toward the library, needing a moment of quiet to process the absolute high of rewriting my own history. But destiny, it seemed, wasn't done with me today. As I rounded the corner near the trophy cases, a tall figure stepped out of the shadows of the stairwell, blocking my path. Damien Croft. He wasn't flanked by Tyler or Noah this time. He was alone, leaning against the glass case that held the 2022 state championship football trophy. His dark eyes locked onto mine, calculating and sharp, up close, without the barrier of the bleachers. The sheer oppressive gravity of his presence was palpable. This was the boy who had systematically ruined my life, driven me out of town, and pushed me to the brink of my own demise. My heart hammered in my chest, a primal leftover instinct from my past life screaming at me to run. I forced my feet to stay planted. I forced my spine straight. I wasn't the victim anymore. I had the cheat codes to this reality. Amelia Wright? Damien asked, his voice a low, dangerous purr. It wasn't a question. He knew exactly who I was. Damien, I replied, evenly, not breaking eye contact. He tilted his head, a predatory smirk playing on his lips. I have to admit, you surprised me back there. I was fully expecting you to come rushing down to save your little lapdog. It's what you usually do, isn't it? Clean up Madison's messes? People change. I said simply. Sometimes they get tired of playing the maid. Damien chuckled, but there was no warmth in the sound. He took a slow, deliberate step toward me. The air grew heavy. It was almost sociopathic, the way you just watched her burn. I appreciate a good show, Amelia, but I don't like anomalies. And right now, you are an anomaly. You didn't react the way you were supposed to. Why? He was probing for a weakness. He was looking for the angle, trying to figure out how to categorize me so he could control me. It was time to play my trump card, the ultimate power shift. I stepped closer to him, completely invading his personal space. I saw his eyes widen a fraction of an inch. He wasn't used to people stepping toward him. I didn't react. I whispered, keeping my voice so low that even if someone walked down the hall, they wouldn't hear a word. Because I don't care about teenage melodrama. Damien, I care about real problems. Like the fact that next Thursday the SEC is going to raid the regional offices of Croft Enterprise. Damien froze. The smirk vanished from his face, replaced by a look of stark, absolute shock. I know about the offshore accounts. Damien, I continued, my voice smooth and relentless. I know about the shell company in the Cayman Islands under your uncle's name. I know that your father is quietly trying to liquidate assets before the indictment hits the news cycle next week. You're standing here playing king of the high school, torturing teenage girls for sport, while your entire family's legacy is about to burn to the ground. In my past life, the Croft Enterprise scandal had rocked the entire state. Damien's father went to federal prison, and Damien had lashed out with unprecedented cruelty to maintain his grip on the school's social ladder. I had read every article, obsessed over the downfall of the family that ruined me. I knew the timeline perfectly. Damien grabbed my arm, his grip bruising and desperate. Who told you that? How do you know that? Let go of me, I said, my voice dropping to a glacial chill. I didn't struggle. I stared at his hand until he slowly, hesitantly released his grip. If you ever touch me again, or if you ever direct your pathetic little friends to target me, I will leak the documents to the Crestview Chronicle before the feds even show up with their warrant. I will make sure the public humiliation starts here. With you. I stepped back, smoothing out the sleeve of my shirt. Damien looked visibly pale. The untouchable school bully had just been gutted by the quiet girl he didn't even notice yesterday. Have a good fourth period. Damien, I said brightly, turning and walking down the hallway. By Wednesday, the social landscape of Crestview High had undergone a seismic, irreversible shift. The video of Madison's rejection had amassed over 10,000 views on local social media channels. It was remixed, memed, and mocked mercilessly. Madison didn't show up to school on Tuesday. When she finally dragged herself through the front doors on Wednesday morning, she looked like a ghost. I was sitting at my usual table in the cafeteria, calmly eating a bruised apple while reading a textbook. In the past life, I would have been sitting with her in the counselor's office, holding her hand while she hyperventilated. Today, I was enjoying the peace and quiet. The doors to the cafeteria banged open. Madison stood there, her eyes darting frantically across the room until they locked onto me. She marched over, trailed by Sarah Jenkins and a few other girls who were practically vibrating with nervous energy. "You!" Madison slammed her hands down on my table. The noise echoed, drawing the attention of the surrounding tables. "I know what you're doing." I marked my page and looked up. "Feigning milburedum." "What am I doing?" "Madison, you set up that fake Instagram account," she accused, her voice shrill and desperate. "The one posting the screenshots of my messages to Damien. You're the only one who had access to my phone. You're trying to destroy me so you can take my place." I sighed inwardly. She was so predictable. In her desperation to regain control of the narrative, she was trying to cast me as the villain. If she could make people believe I was a cyberbully who orchestrated her downfall out of jealousy, she might salvage some sympathy. "Madison," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the quieted cafeteria, "I don't have time to run burner accounts. But since we are on the topic of screenshots, maybe we should discuss the group chat you and Sarah have. The one called Ugly Ducklings." Sarah Jenkins gasped, her face draining of color. Madison froze. "The one," I continued, standing up slowly, towering over her sitting form, "where you spent the last 6 months making fun of the girls in the special education program. All the messages where you bragged about stealing test answers from Mr. Peterson's desk." The cafeteria erupted in shocked murmurs. I had seen those messages in my past life, found them purely by accident when Madison asked me to fix a glitch on her phone. I had kept my mouth shut then, blinded by my loyalty. "Not anymore." "You wouldn't," Madison whispered, absolute terror replacing her righteous anger. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and tapped the screen. I just sent the archive to Principal Harrison's email. I ICC'd the Parents Association. "You wanted a villain. Madison, you just found one. But I don't deal in petty high school drama. I deal in consequences." Madison stumbled backward, tears welling up in her eyes. Sarah turned and literally ran out of the cafeteria, realizing the ship was sinking and taking her down with it. The crowd of students around us was dead silent, staring at me with a mixture of awe and genuine fear. I looked up toward the raised platform at the back of the cafeteria, where the elite sat. Damien Croft was sitting there. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't talking to his friends. He was staring directly at me. Our eyes met across the crowded room. There was no smirk on his face anymore. There was only a profound, wary respect. He knew I was holding a nuclear bomb over his family's head, and he had just watched me mercilessly execute my former best friend with surgical precision. The quiet, unassuming girl in the background was dead. The unassuming assistant who took the blame and suffered in silence had been buried in a past life. I had been reborn into this reality, and I wasn't just surviving the elite hierarchy of Crestview High. I was going to own it. I picked up my apple, took a slow, deliberate bite, and smiled back at Damien. "Let the games begin. If you thought that power shift was intense, you haven't seen anything yet. What happens when the school's biggest bully is forced to work for the girl he used to ignore?" Drop a like, hit subscribe, and smash that share button so you don't miss part